to the No Practice Podcast, where we cover the only sport in the world where there is no practice. With your mini rod driving host, Adam Kester, Tyler Slaw, and Chase Richardson. Strap in for some debates on the world of pulling, exclusive special guests, and a whole lot of nonsense BS. The No Practice Podcast starts now.
No Practice Podcast, episode, I can't say 29 in Spanish, but I want to say something cool. Episode 29. It's been an extra week off, guys. I would say I missed you, but I really didn't. But I did miss our fans. It's good to be back again. We're in the time change. It's getting dark outside early. Totally not pulling season, but the vibes are strong for banquets, winter pulling, all that stuff ahead. So, gentlemen, Tyler, Adam, haven't talked to you in 2 weeks, or was it been 3 weeks? Nice to see you guys again.
Yes, good to see you too. I like how we were all of 10 seconds into this show before you had to pause, and it was at that moment that you realized you couldn't say 29 in Spanish. That's the kind of professionalism we
Can you say 29 in Spanish? Can you say 29 in Spanish?
Which is why I'm not.
Give me an interruption right now. Can you say 29 in Spanish?
No, I can't, which is why I'm not trying to.
Vienente y nueve.
I'd like to think that's wrong. Adam, while I tally Chase up for another interruption, how have you been?
Well, I think I've managed to get on this podcast closer and closer to the 7 o'clock on the dot every time. It's been a hectic few weeks here, getting really busy at work, and just excited to be back on the podcast.
I actually had someone text me the other day and said, when it gets dark outside early, that means it's No Practice Podcast season. This is a year-round podcast, but I think more people maybe watch us when it gets dark earlier. So for what it's worth, you know who you are. Thanks for that nice little message you sent me last week. It means a lot when we get the MPP messages. So, Tyler, what's been new with you the last couple weeks?
I mean, I'm really finishing up my flatbed on my $150 truck, which I know has been turning into a long, drawn-out process. But I'm liking the way it's going. I'm pleased with it. To have a functioning fuel gauge in a vehicle that you drive every day is just really a great feeling to, proceed with confidence, knowing you're not going to run out of fuel. And my house, that's been a slow work in progress for 5 years, is honestly making some good progress. We got the floor in upstairs. All the cabinets and everything are getting trimmed out. No thanks to me, other than paying for it. I'm not a finish work carpenter. I framed a good deal of it, but I'm not going to be over there, trimming cabinets and stuff. So it's pretty cool to see that come together. I'm pretty excited.
So with all this exciting moments in your life, and for those of you that don't know, your significant other, Courtney, she's way cooler and sweeter than you are, but all this stuff's coming together. The holiday season is upon us. Can we anticipate any type of questions that we need to leak out to the world, or is that
I see what you're going for there, but she's told me years ago, she said, whatever you do, don't ever do a cheesy Hallmark Christmas time proposal, because she's not a big Kris Kringle ho 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 Santa Clausy Hallmarky type person. Do
you plan on proposing to her at some point? Do you plan on proposing?
Yeah, I do, Chase.
Would
and how about you?
On this show?
Chase? No, I wouldn't. That's way too cheesy. Worse than Christmas. Chase, how's your personal life with women going?
Everything's great. Halloween was last couple weeks ago. One of my favorite days of the year, and I was in Vegas for a few days and took in some drag racing. Went to SEMA last week, which was the first time I've ever been to SEMA. Do you all know much about what SEMA is? Because I really didn't know, but it's a huge trade show for, I guess, what would you call it, like auto industry? Adam, I know you're familiar with SEMA. What would you call SEMA?
Yeah, I've actually had a vehicle on display out there many a times. The SEMA show, for anybody who doesn't know, if you know what the PRI show is, the PRI show is more of the racing, and SEMA is more of the show. So SEMA has I mean, you'll see like a Can-Am side by side, jacked up, painted, 44s on it, all kinds of stuff like that. Semis, cars, drift cars, muscle cars, resto mods, big jacked up trucks. It's more of like I'm not going to say it's not, because it's obviously there for the industry of the pieces and parts that make all the aftermarket side of automotive things go. But it's a big show, as far as seeing exotic stuff. You're definitely going to see it there, and it's highly trafficked by a lot of people. So Las Vegas in Halloween time is always pretty neat because they have the NHRA drag race Halloween, and then the SEMA show the week after every year, and I think they actually have F1 coming here and at the end of the month or something like that. But yeah, the SEMA show is pretty neat. I've always enjoyed going there.
F1 in Vegas. I've been out in Vegas for different reasons the past month a couple of times.
Of course,
people in Vegas hate F1. Like no, it's like saying, how do you feel about COVID in a tractor pulling pit? Like it's
can't be that intense.
They effing hate it in Vegas because it's really taken over the streets and like the traffic flow. And normally the local interaction I have when I'm in Vegas is when I'm with a taxi driver, Uber driver, or a dealer at a blackjack table. Everyone hates F1. I'm serious. It would be equivalent to showing up at a tractor pull with the "I love COVID" shirt on, and people seeing your reactions to it. So I'll be interesting to see how that plays out because it's very interesting. F1 is, probably the most recognized global.
No. I would disagree. It's the most expensive racing on the planet.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not relatable, like, because it's so high end. I don't think.
Let's face it. None of us are ever going to go to an F1 race or be in a suite or anything like that. Not being said, like Shell obviously is, big into F1 with different manufacturers and stuff like that. But it is definitely a higher echelon of racing. One lug nut on their car probably costs more than our entire racing vehicle. It's kind of ridiculous, but. Yeah, I mean, it is for a select amount of people. I don't catch myself watching it very often. They say it's a world-class racing. The only thing I see is one dude wins all the races, so that ain't very much fun to me. So,
yeah, people accuse that tractor pulling at times can be, just racing pocketbooks, but I think the small understanding I have of the F1 racing is even more so. The big question I have, though, is for Chase. After you've been to SEMA, can you tell us what SEMA stands for?
Without looking it up on your phone.
Yep. Look us in the eyes.
I don't cheat like some other guys. I don't know what SEMA means, no. I think I saw it one time and I was like, oh, that's what it means. But
specialty is the first word.
Engineered motors.
Specialty equipment. Specialty equipment. Market. You got the last word?
Association.
Yeah. See, you know things. You're good to go.
Okay. We do have a highlighted guest today that we're very excited about. This past 7 days in our country has been a pretty patriotic one, if you know what I mean. We don't talk about politics on here, but this past Monday was Veterans Day, and what better person to have on than a veteran himself, Mr. Van Haisley. I did not know Van was a veteran, honestly, until I was fortunate enough to do a little visit his shop a few weeks back. But the godfather of diesel four-wheel drive truck pulling is our guest. We can't wait to have him on later. Quite the knowledge, quite the person, and, you won't find better people to represent your sport. So Veterans Day edition of the No Practice podcast. We have Van coming on later. So
I was going to say coming on earlier. I missed it.
Sorry. It's been 3 weeks, guys.
Van and Patty probably do more events than anybody in pulling, really. I mean, they go everywhere. You see them everywhere. They have the T-shirts and souvenirs and stuff at the farm show. Numerous pulls throughout. I mean, they're everywhere.
I mean, is there another competitor in pulling right now that you can honestly say helped start a class? Like, because he started super
I mean,
stock four-wheel
we
drive
had
pull.
the Sullivans on, and I feel like they definitely contributed to starting the two-wheel drive class. You know,
Sure.
if anybody missed that interview, they kind of talked about that.
But I don't know if we'll have these opportunities very often. So excited to have Vane on. And guys, I was in
highly
California.
energetic guy, and very passionate about.
You can tell he's the type of dude who never has a bad day, which is something to be said for.
Right.
I was in California for the first time ever last weekend for a tractor pull. What do you all know about California?
You've never been to California before, Chase?
I have now after last Friday, but no, I'd never.
That was your first time going to California?
First time in my life. I've been a lot of places, done a lot of things, but I'd never been to California ever.
That strikes me as odd.
Yeah, and it's you know what? I didn't really know what to expect. We all have stereotypes and things in our brain that we may not admit, but you know, whenever I got there and after being there for a few hours, if you would just told me like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, you know, hit your heels together twice and look where you are, I would have thought I was in Ohio for a tractor pull because they're like us. It's what the news says about California was not where we were, and nor are the people there at that pool.
Depends on which news you watch.
Well, most of the news. Let's not get into that, but awesome people, awesome experience. And I think that what they have going on there has so much potential. I know it's a long ways geographically, but there's an audience that loves pulling out there, and there's competitors that are really good. So did you guys have a chance to watch or take any of it in?
I didn't. I have to admit, I actually didn't get to. We had a lot of stuff going on this past weekend. I had to go down to Tennessee and had to get some stuff. I had some issues with some stuff before I left to go down there, and I did catch some clips, obviously, off Facebook and everything. But I've been able to be lucky enough to pull out there. They are great people out there. They have a decent following. I wish we could bring our show to them. You know, obviously it's a long damn way, but man, the time I went, the fans are very energetic. They really like pulling.
I did catch some of it on the live stream, but I think my favorite part was when we were getting pictures of our young Chase Richardson out here manning the camera at the starting line. I believe you can see him very comfortable behind the camera. People were texting Adam and I pictures of this, saying, "Look, you guys, Chase is actually busy out here on the track,
that's me
doing things." Yeah, that's our beloved Chase Richardson right there.
And, well, it's hard to debate now.
Here he's
I mean, look at him. Did you get all these new camera angles? Where'd you get these ideas for your camera angles and everything? Were you?
Well, I think you know, pulling is sometimes we joke amongst ourselves that we're crazy to pull and do what we do and do all this, but I think the people that do the streaming and hold the video cameras may be crazier because. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of work and stuff that goes into all that, and it honestly was a smart ass comment by me that's saying, "Oh, I could run with those cameras," and little I know that what went into it was what went into it.
How long did you run that camera?
I ran it the entire time I was there.
Did you?
Yep.
Both days?
Viewership went down too. Yeah, I ran it both days. I had to. I missed the last class on the Saturday night because I had a red-eye flight home, but I did it.
Red-eye private jet back.
What was the hardest part about running a camera that you didn't anticipate?
Getting run over by track equipment.
Yeah,
like the roller and the graders and that, you have to pay attention because not that they weren't paying attention, but they have a job to do to work the track and do all that, and they don't really.
Did your arms get tired of carrying the camera?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't think the live stream crew will want me to do it again because it was really bad, but it was
just imagine that this was like 1995 and you're packing around a big camera, you know, and
yes,
you got to admit the technology these days, it's like 10 times easier and obviously thousands of times better, but I mean,
one of those big shoulder units.
Yeah.
Like the full pull live crew that has developed and got all this stuff together and has done phenomenal this year. Isn't there one of those commercials? It's like, it's so easy. A monkey can do it. It's like this stuff's so high tech
that easy. Chase Richardson could do it.
It was a great experience. Don't know if I want to do it again though. But I actually have an idea that I was going to run by you all. I've gone pulling. It's taken me to Texas and California with the last couple of weeks for pulling in late October and November, and saw places of the world where pulling exists and like people love. We were in Lufkin, Texas, and that was an awesome event. Not because it was, the competition was great, but this thing was in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and literally you throw a dart against the map, and that's where it was. And there's 10,000 people there watching a tractor pull in late October, and I was like, maybe one day, this podcast sometimes does some innovative stuff, but like, could you all ever imagine like doing like events in like a Texas or California, not in the summer, but like doing like a swing? Obviously you'd want good money and incentive to go behind it, but like, hey, let's go run our mini rides in Texas for 3 weeks in a row for, a nice payday to get exposed to new fans. And, and then also there's no mini rods out there, but let's say like a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, you compete against those guys. I think that's a really cool idea.
That's kind of what they have going on down there in Florida.
It is. Yeah, it is. I agree. But I think this cool part about those locations is that it stays warm where it's not warm. And if you could ever incentivize people to do it, I think we could have some fun doing some fall and winter pulling, but just an idea. Because I never would have thought of that till I actually show up there in person. Adam, you're pretty good on feedback and comments. Do you think something like that could ever work?
I've been asked that numerous times. I think it could work. Obviously, scheduling and things like that. The biggest problem is that we all work, right? So it's not like we just do this for a living. So that alone's a difficult thing. But if you could manage to string together a couple events, make it logistically okay, I would love to do it. I've pulled in California. We went out there for the World Ag Expo, and which is the largest farm show in United States. For anybody that doesn't know, Louisville is big, but the World Ag Expo is even bigger. But we really enjoyed going out there. The fans love it. They have numerous places I think would be hot spots to have it if you could get the interest in. Obviously, you probably don't want to go to LA or San Francisco and be belching black smoke up into the air.
Wouldn't be a big hit there.
Yeah. But it's really funny from the entertainment standpoint, no matter if you're in Florida, Maine, California, people like racing, and they really like stuff that's different. So I think there would be a time and a place for it. Will we get there soon? I hope so, but it's going to have to pay out a little bit.
It's all about the dollars and making it worthwhile for sure. But in a world where, my dad pulled in the 90s and early 2000s, US Hot Rod or SRO, they pulled Unlimiteds with Monster Jam, give or take those times. But like, they would travel to all these big cities and in these arenas, but they would go and make 10x what they're making now just to show up. So obviously it needs to be incentivized and, made worthwhile. But I think there's a time and a place and a day where maybe all this stuff can happen one day. I mean, it's not going to happen the next month or two, but there are fans out there that would watch this, I guess is my point. So maybe, maybe the No Practice podcast can start our own winter circuit somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put our heads together on that and fiscally rely solely on you, Chase, for that for sure. Well, speaking, Chase, of the video platform and your arms getting tired from carrying something, I believe I saw another clip of you carrying a certain something on the live stream, and I believe we have a video of it backstage to go to as well. So here we see
countdown to Pull Time show.
Yeah, I think we got Mr. Dan Mayer and Jason Schultz there, and we see a ghoulish like Chase sneaking up behind Jason with a cake, and an unsuspecting Jason Schultz takes a cake to the face right there at the Speedway on the Countdown show. He looked like he
miraculously. It looks like nothing really got on his face.
It wasn't the right kind of cake, but what better guy to throw a cake in their face than that guy?
Hey, dude, you need to be watching Blue, the Indianapolis Colts mascot. The guy's a master at the pie to the face.
Is he?
Yes. It's absolutely hysterical.
Yeah,
I'm all about the big occasions, the holidays, the festivals. I mean, that guy he does home loans and does mortgages, so he deserves a pat on the face when it's his birthday, right?
Right.
Well, happy birthday to Mr. Jason Schultz,
Yeah,
nonetheless.
happy birthday,
Chase, I
Schultz.
expected you to learn from our Toma live stream that if you're going to shove somebody's face into a cake, it needs to be primarily a whipped cream based unit.
Shout out,
Exactly.
shout out to Hall of Famer Tim Ray.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tim Ray, undefeated in the No Practice Podcast pie eating contest at our live shows for sure. Well, another fun thing that we have discussed on this show was Mr. RJ Simon's event. And regarding his event, I believe we did a little manifesting about the schedule of that. And I believe we have I want to manifest one more thing before we go. Like, I love Ricky Rose. He was our guest. We all love Hutch. It's where I first got my first Grand National win. It's a wonderful pull. Man, like, if there's anything they can do to get that pull to a different weekend, it would be awesome to not have to have events compete with each other over top. And here you heard us say it first. It would be awesome if we could do a schedule change so that those events wouldn't be on top of each other. And lo and behold, NTBA
We come through
made a
again, baby.
post
We come through again.
that the 300 Raceway and the Power Pull Nationals are no longer going to be competing and on top of one another on the same weekend, which is an interesting concept. And we'll take absolutely no credit for it, but we said it would be a good idea on the record. So we had to replay that for sure.
I think we've changed rules. Remember the rules about Grand National entries at a event with over 30 competitors, they have to be bunched together. I think we may have contributed to that being dropped, and I'm not going to say we were responsible for that swap out either, but we helped get the messaging behind the Powerful Nationals.
It made good sense, right?
We're here to grow the sport. We're here to spread the good word. So I'm glad somebody was listening.
Absolutely.
So what do we
So with that confirmation,
what are we manifesting next?
Today, huh?
What are we manifesting next?
We're our own circuit in California and Texas.
Easy.
Yeah, that's a lot. Maybe we're manifesting that despite winning the Inderly and the points, Chase will not get an invite to the farm show.
I'm still hammering home that they will start weighing us after we pull and not before.
Too much scale variance. I don't like that rule.
Oh fuck! Here we go.
I think this our presence is being felt. So I guess the next manifest will be sure to go back and document all this just to make sure everyone knows that we were right. We were right one time. And so to confirm this was a release that's put out publicly. We're just going to reiterate it. Hutchinson, Minnesota is June 6th and 7th, and Farley Nationals are going to be June 12th through 14th, with the 14th being the $50,000 to win event. So, and then someone asked a question between Farley and Toma this year or in 2025. There is a weekend off in the Grand National schedule as of today, from what I've heard. So, yeah, it'll look a lot different, but
Hey, why don't we manifest that? Can we get the schedule out to the pullers a little bit earlier? We don't have to make it public. Just let them know that it's tentative, so we can all start making little scheduling things and not wait till January, February before we do that stuff. That'd be great.
Careful, Adam. You
heard it there. You heard it here first, right?
Just saying.
Yeah, that's hard to do. You don't understand.
I know. I'd hate to just have to give people the same information 2 months earlier. I mean, geez.
So speaking of California,
well, hang on. We've got a comment.
Did you visit San Francisco?
Kevin says, "Do you like they set at Bowling Green? If you're over on the end scale, you go back to the scale you weighed in on, and if you over on that, then you're out." I like that because that's a bit of checks and balances. Because I feel like we can't roll on just one scale because of the inconsistencies that we've seen. Personally, I could be wrong. I don't know. All right,
we'll see.
Moving on.
You ask.
I believe we have a little segment we like to get to, and I think we took the last show off, but we're going to touch on it this week.
We got an intro here, right?
I think so.
The No Practice Podcast. Man, I wish there was a practice segment.
Oh my God!
That's right. It's the Man I Wish There Was Practice segment where we like to feature somebody making a pass where everything does not really go ideal. And Mr. Chase Richardson, I believe, is going to be making the call tonight, putting his phone on speakerphone and holding that high and tight to that microphone so we can all hear what's on the other end.
Speaking of California, we have a Californian that's going to be our guest. We'll get into this as soon as he hops on.
Get that phone close.
Hello,
Chase.
is this Anthony?
Speaking.
Anthony, this is Chase Richardson, Adam Kessler, Tyler Slaw with the No Practice Podcast. How are you doing?
Not bad. How you guys doing?
Good. Have you ever heard of the No Practice Podcast?
No.
Well, I know you're from California, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, we're over here in the Midwest in the eastern part of the country. People listen to us every other Wednesday, but we've been complimenting California polling and how amazing it was. I was fortunate to go out there last week, so we definitely want to grow our California fan base, and what better person to have on than you. So I know you were previously vetted on this, but do you know why we're bringing you on this show right now, or do we need to get into that?
Yes.
Okay.
Adam give you a buzz.
Okay, so we have a segment called Man I Wish There Was Practice, and right now we're live, and we're going to show a clip that happened at the 2023 Madera Raceway, where your tractor took a hard right turn and went out of bounds, and I believe it clipped a Bobcat skid steer, as I see there.
It was actually. Are we on right now?
Yeah, we're on. So
Okay.
sorry to I didn't give you a heads up, but yeah, there's like 20,000 people listening to you right now.
We have the video along the line, and the skid steer was actually in my lane about 16 inches. But we didn't catch it. Obviously, one of my guys would have said something. I took off, and it wasn't the best pass, but it was moving pretty hard. I kept on the left brake, and it just wasn't happening. At one point, I backed out just a second, get my front end down, and get it away from the wall, and I nailed it again. The front end jumped up in the air again. Just by then, I cleared the K-rail, and then the tractor took a beeline to the right as soon as I cleared the dirt by the K-rail.
So the Bobcat was in the wrong place, wrong time, and on the track. We can't.
Yeah, it was about 16 inches on the track.
Okay, we're looking at the video now. You can't watch it, but it does. That's not probably something that occurs very often. It's one of those freak deals, but do you mind a comment? Like, what kind of damage did it do to the tractor, if you recall?
It did a ton of damage. It tore the motor mounts off the front of the chassis. It twisted the rear part, the aluminum plate. My front end's all modern machine stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took the aluminum mid plate, twisted it into a pretzel, bent both bell housings, busted up all the drive shafts and covers going to the gearbox, busted the gearbox off the chassis. That's how when it pivoted the gearbox, it shoved the left side shaft forward and bent the bell housing on the left motor in.
So you built a new tractor, it sounds like, this year.
Front end again, new drive shaft covers, new drive shafts, new couplings, new clutches, new cans. And I threw a lot more at it. We've had some problems this year. We're getting it worked out. This next pass in February at the World Ag Expo, I'll have something for them.
I like it. I have to ask this last question, and then we'll move on to. We want to talk about California pulling. Have you hit a skid steer since?
No.
Okay.
I don't think anybody's crazy enough to park one in front of me.
Well, for us over here in the east side of the country, that was very viral content. Not for a good reason, but we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and confirming that what looks like a light hit, it basically rebuilds a tractor in a scenario like that. So tell us a little bit about yourself. California pulling. If you had to tell people in the eastern part of the country or Midwest that typically fall pulling, what's the big difference, or what's your selling point on California pulling compared to the rest of the world?
We don't have the designated tracks that you guys do. We have some good tracks just happened right here in my hometown, Chowchilla. It was a circle track. They bulldozed it flat. So all that clay dirt is on top now. So Chowchilla is a really good track. Brian built a pretty good track there at the Madera Speedway. We're working on something next year possibly for Merced Speedway. That's also a circle track that will have a lot of clay. So that'll be a good one also. But they're not designated pulling tracks. You know what I mean?
Right.
We have better air for sure than what they have back there. The other night we were at 0.
When did you start pulling, Anthony? Like, has this been something you've done your whole life, or?
No. My cousins did back in the 70s, and I used to be the guy. Back then we measured with a tape. I don't know if you're around. I don't know how much younger you are than I am. We met actually in Madera.
Yeah.
I was in Kevin Moore's pit.
Yeah. We were having. I had a few drinks at that point, but I certainly remember you.
Yeah, we're young, but we know what a tape measure is.
Anytime I'm out, I end up feeding people.
Yeah, it was amazing food, by the way. You're a caterer by trade, right?
Yes.
That's amazing. Yeah, it was.
I'm a realtor, but I'm a better caterer than I am a realtor.
Yeah. So we're not that old. I have seen a tape measure before. So you were back pulling whenever they're using tape measures to measure distance.
Yeah, in the 70s, my cousin, he was one of the first ones here in California. He ran a farm mall with 2 327 Chevys on it.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
And that was back in the 70s. But I hadn't got in it. My son got back in it in 2016, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know if you ever heard of the engine builder here locally, Joe Bogosian. He was a large engine builder throughout the 60s, 70s.
Yep.
80s.
Adam knows him.
Yeah. Joe Bogosian used to do Mario Andretti's motors. I mean, that's how far back Joe goes. If it wasn't for Joe, actually, he saw me out of the corner of his eyes, and he remembered me from the sand drag days back in the 80s. I used to run a sand drag car, and I started talking with Joe, and just, I was really impressed that after all these years, Joe's still doing it and remembered me and wanted me, you need to build another big toy. I said, well, shit, why not?
Yeah, I love it. So, yeah. Anthony, last question here. Appreciate you taking the time. I did not plan on getting into this, but we always like to get behind the scenes in the pulling world. You're a caterer, so do you mind sharing the craziest, most ridiculous catering story you've ever had?
Oh God, you don't want all of them.
No, this is a family show, but we do a lot of crazy shit on here.
I've cooked for nudist colonies. You name it. I've cooked for
nudist colonies. Do you mind to indulge a little bit? Nudist colonies. Where was that located?
Well, we're in California, so that you don't have to look too far to find weird people.
So hang on a second. We got more questions. Nudist colonies are in California?
Nudist colonies are everywhere. Anywhere you got Democrats.
Oh, God. Okay.
Jesse, going back to California.
Would the colonies ever host a tractor pull?
No. And in fact, it's never the people running around naked that you would want to see naked.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they say about nude beaches.
I just did another one for a group of I don't know what you call one of the under clubs of the Hells Angels, the guys that are coming out, but I just did another dinner for one of their groups. Yeah, you name it, I've cooked for them. I've done good ones, bad ones.
What kind of food do the nudist colonies like?
Everybody pretty much orders the norm, and here my norm is tri-tip, rosemary braised chicken, Portuguese style green beans, butter herb potatoes, French roll, and garden salad.
Okay.
And that's my go-to. And the reason why is because most venues now, every place where people goes to have a large event, they don't have a kitchen.
Gotcha.
And so that's food I can travel with.
So no cocktail wieners at the nudist colonies?
No.
Okay.
No.
No meatballs, no tender breast, no anything?
That was probably 30 years ago.
No meatballs, no tender breast, no nothing custom for the nudist colonies?
Honestly, I don't remember what the hell I cooked for those people. It's been a long time. It was 30 years ago. I've served so many. People like my chicken. I already can't stand chicken, but I cook about 250,000 pieces of chicken a year to give you an idea how much I cook.
Oh, wow. That is amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I get sick and tired of chicken, but
well, that's what's amazing about the sport. What turns into one conversation about skid steer turns into nudist colonies, pop trivial questions. So, Anthony, we really appreciate you coming on the No Practice podcast. Make sure everyone in California, you share this and your people put it out there to listen, because this is all about growing the sport. California, our goal in the No Practice podcast is to get pulling in California at some point in our lifetime, where some of us East Coasters come over there. But I'm not sure the nudist colonies will take us or not, but we can probably negotiate with them.
it was nice having you here too on the West Coast. Starting to get a little bit of people involved. From Donnie Sullivan came out for the event, and then I don't know if you saw Sean Dill from Alchemy. He came out for the event. He does my fuel system, my fuel pumps.
Awesome,
Yeah,
good stuff.
Some good people. It was a nice event this time.
No, it was. I think you all are. Kudos to all of you all for doing what you're doing and doing what you're doing. And just make sure those skid steers stay far off the track, and we won't call you no more.
Yeah, Brian Massetti is the one who did this event, MLM, and I got to give him thumbs up. That was a nice event.
It was
probably the best we've had here on the West Coast.
Good stuff. Anthony, appreciate you. Come on the No Practice podcast, and look forward to seeing you again and having some of those meatball sandwiches.
Yep. All right. Well, take care.
Take care. Thanks, man.
Bye.
No Practice podcast. Nudist colonies. It could be a segment.
Well, if you're ever out in California and you need an event catered, call the guy that hit the skid steer. That's what you learned tonight.
Anthony Freitas. It was really funny. So Chase gets on today, and we got our little message, and we're going back and discussing stuff we're going to do on the podcast. And he says, I got this video of a tractor hitting a skid steer, and I kind of laughed a little bit because I'm like, yeah, that's a customer of mine. And like, no way. But yep, sure is. I got the number and everything. And he called me like right then. And he was, because they tore up a few things. He had some pretty bad luck there. And,
so he happened to call you at the moment we were discussing him.
Yeah. It was kind of crazy. Yeah, I know. It was really crazy. I would have never really thought about that.
Is that what the word is? Serendipity?
So I said, yeah. He had kind of no idea. I said, we got a podcast. I'd like to see if you'd like to be on it. And he's like, is it an ambush? Like, you guys going to attack me or something? Like, no, Anthony, we're not going to do that. And I said, the guy that has the full pull, he was out there in California, Chase Richardson. He's like, yeah, he was hanging out over with the what is it, the Shakedown group?
They
bought Shelton's mods.
Yeah, I can confirm they party hard in California like to do in the East Coast. So a lot of it's
I made a comment to him. I was like, he's probably hanging out with them because they probably had a hot daughter or something he was after. And he's like, well, he messed up. He says, I guess he goes, he made the comment that he goes, well, good thing he was over there because my daughter's really pretty. I'm glad he wasn't fooling around over at our place. I was like, good deal. Good deal. I told him to stay away from that guy.
Adam. I think nobody's laughing right now, but I'll laugh.
There's a few laughing. It's okay. But anyways, Anthony's a great dude. He's been a really good guy. Used to be sponsored by Lucas Oil. He's ran over there with them guys a long time. Used to run like an inline crank to crank deal. And just recently he did the tractor, put the two engines up front like most of everybody does now. And he's had some really good luck out there. So good guy.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it looked like there was a lot of really nice equipment out there in California. And I feel like that's pretty cool to see because I feel like, maybe 10 years ago, maybe, things were a little bit behind, not to be insulting to it, but I feel like you watch videos of it nowadays and like there's really good stuff out there. And that's
the last thing I'll say, one of the coolest indirectly great qualities they have about their pulls. So they deal with shit that we don't deal with in terms of like ordinances and government, like this and that. And they have to be done always pulling by 10:30 at night, no matter where they go.
I like that.
That calls for a quick show. So they get their show in and out. So that's, maybe we should get, maybe we should put some ordinances on some pulls in ours.
Yeah. They don't want to wake up the homeless.
Yeah,
that's right. Tents just don't have very well insulated walls. And so if you've got them sleeping in the streets,
manifest it, baby. Manifest it.
You can't be doing that. All right. Moving on. I believe last two shows, we've touched on the fan hotline, which is 302-272-5360. And we received a voicemail this past week. And let's give that voicemail a listen. Yep. Let's give that voicemail. Let's give that voicemail a listen. Yeah, I guess. So
hey,
the dude that called last week or last show. And just a little comment. We'll talk about tires. I know Adam's talked about tires a lot of times. It was in your interview last week. What do you think on those? Are they going to continue to upgrade tires? Is that going to be an ongoing thing as far, mid-season you're changing tires, buying tires, whatever? Or will the association come up and say, you got to run this tire this season? How do you guys think that's going to go? I hear a lot about tires, a lot of new things coming with tires, a lot of different treads and different things like that, bar tread, the numbers you can have. And so a little question on that, just see what you guys thought on it. And got to give a shout out to my man Chase. Dude, last week was fantastic. Reception was money. You must have been in the Four Seasons this time. I mean, that show might have been a Red Roof Inn down at the lobby. I don't know, but man, you hit it on the money. Reception was good. No background noise. Thank you. Guys, love your show. Keep doing what you're doing. Thanks.
I'm glad somebody likes me on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. His reference there to the episode where Chase thought it would be a fine idea to sit in a bar the entire time with like a live band in the background. But Chase, we've got you again for a nice quiet background episode where we can hear your beautiful voice. It's wonderful. Adam, tires, what do you think?
I find it quite interesting. They've put a lot of things out like this past year on what tires we got to run, how wide the lugs, how wide the tread needs to be on the tire, the amount of lugs you're allowed to run. I think it's all kind of horse shit, to be honest with you. If you want to run double cuts, you should be able to run double cuts. If you want to have 60 lugs on the tire, you should be able to do that. I don't know exactly what they're trying to achieve by that, but it sure is going to make things interesting if they let the Nichols tire in the mini rod class. I know you guys tried them over at a couple PPL pulls. Some people have mixed reviews on them. I'm sure that the more they keep working on them, the tires are going to get better, and guys are probably going to try to run them if some of these organizations will allow them. I don't know. It's probably a better question, honestly, for Van, because he's been in the four-wheel drive class where they've had pit bulls, they got Mayhills, they have all kinds of these different brands of tires, and you kind of just got to stick with one or try them all and then stick with one, whatever one you think works the best. So I personally am not a huge fan of adding in more tires. I do like the competition of other brands coming in and competing. I think that's good, but when a guy like myself has 2-3 tractors and you got to come up with multiple sets for each tractor and then multiple brands of tires for each tractor, it might be a little bit expensive, but we'll see how it goes. I don't know. What do you guys think?
So
I'll keep my answer very short. I'll keep my answer very short and sweet. We're the only motorsport in the world that doesn't have a tire requirement. So I think there'd be a way to leverage tire manufacturers to get more money into purse money too. If they want to be the exclusive tire manufacturer. So I personally like to see it where there's just one manufacturer, everyone has to run it, but that's just my opinion.
That's a firm stance. Adam, what is your firm stance? You want just one or you want multiple? I kind of heard both there.
Well, I looked at it from both sides, I think it would be good to have competition in there, because something may be better, but I see a lot of these classes.
Spend more money though.
It's flavor of the week, dude, with these pro stock tires. Like you see these guys one week it's hole shots, the next week it's tosses, then it's a Parks puller. I mean, it's just like holy cow. I think for certain big events, let's say like RJ Simon's event, I think we all should run a tire that's a 22 or 23 new, you know what I'm saying, like a stamped tire for a huge event like that, so we all know we're running on the same tire. That being said, so I'm all for them running one manufactured tire. You don't see NASCAR picking out 12-year-old tires to stick on NASCARs to run around, or drag racers, dragging 15-year-old tires out of barns and running them because, they're old and they work better. They all run the same damn tire.
While that is true, and I get what you're saying, I feel like the number one complaint people have with NASCAR that I hear is everything's exactly the same. They got to run the same chassis, the same tires, and nobody can even tell them apart. And I feel like motorsports at its core is driven by diversity and yet parity at the same time. So I I honestly like the thought of it being wide open. If Adam wants to make a mold in his CNC machines and start crafting and molding a tire, that fits the set aside dimensional requirements and everything
Right.
that a tire needs to be. I think he should be all for it. Just like if he wants to build a cylinder head that nobody else can run, if he so
Right.
chooses to, he can. If Chase wants to run a blower that only he can run, he so too can. And more importantly, our opinions mean so little, but whose opinion does mean a lot is who we're going to bring on tonight. And that is the granddaddy of the diesel world, Mr. Van Haisley. Van, how are we doing tonight?
Hey, great guys. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on with us. It's our pleasure. I don't know if you could hear our discussion right before bringing you on, but what are your thoughts on the variety of tire manufacturers in the pulling world? Good thing, bad thing? What have you seen in your class?
I'll tell you, tires are everything in our class, and I think you've got to have multiple tire manufacturers. There's been rumor of trying to run spec chargers and all that stuff. Just like you said, Tyler, we have to have diversity in this sport. NASCAR has physically ruined their sport. I mean, it is in the toilet right now. And, you know, the only thing different on them is the paint scheme. They're all the same.
Amen, brother.
Van, I take back my comment. I don't want you mad at me because I said that. We just want diversity. But, Van, awesome to have you on the No Practice podcast. I was fortunate enough to be with you about 3 or 4 weeks ago at your shop. Spend an afternoon with you for some stuff we're doing for Full Pull Live, and they'll be out in December. But you are truly, you know, the godfather of full diesel full drive pulling, and the stories and the information and knowledge. I made the comment to the guys. I don't know if you're on here yet. This may be one of the only times that, and you won't take the credit for it because this will take us right into the first question, where a guy who literally started a class is available to do a interview with us as a guest. So I know you don't want to take credit, but were you the guy who started diesel full drive pulling?
I wasn't the first, but I think I was one of the second. But I mean, as far as a national sport, guys, you take like Dave Mitchell, Dan Scheid, Kent Crowder, Eric Stacy. Eric Stacy has the oldest mod truck available in the class. Eric Stacy had a mod truck when nobody else had it. He had cut tires, multiple turbos, and Kent Crowder and myself was still playing with single turbos and DOT tires. But, I mean, I can go back to the summer of 1985, guys, when I took a Chevrolet to the track, and Patty didn't send you that picture. And it was at a local fair here, and I worked all day to get it light enough to make it to where I could pull with the gas guys. And there was very few lights at this pull, and we turned the lights out. And I was sitting at the other end of the track, and they said, well, the sled must have malfunctioned. So I said, let's back up and let's do it again. And, you know, that's back in the water days. We had water in them. I didn't care. Automatic transmission. So after the second time I did it, they hooked a gas truck on there, and he couldn't even move the sled. And that's back where they used to set, you know, cement barrels on the pan. And so that was one of my fondest memories of starting pulling. But there was a local farmer here a year before that he pulled it in 1984, an old Ford truck. And so he's the first, but he's dead now. So I guess you guys put me in that seat right now, guys.
So that Chevy truck that you were running there, tell me it did not have a 6.2.
Yes.
Oh
my God. Yes.
Did you have the Banks turbo or like a J-code military?
Oh, it had a Gale Banks turbo, and then figured out how to buy bulldozer. You know, it had old Rosemaster pump on it, so you find the head off of a bulldozer, and then you find this turbo and that turbo in the junkyard. And I broke so many blocks, blowed so many head gaskets. I mean, I mean, you got to realize this. The reason this class has grown is we used to pull them on Saturday and work on them all week to get them there to the next Saturday. And until we got the engine program figured out, the class would never grow. And my son hated the mod class because we only had 3 or 4 vehicles at every event, and they were just so unreliable. Well, I just got Cody Hastings. Cody has what is Cody's truck? That's terrible.
Against the grain.
Green.
And I just looked at his engine when he dropped it off here just this week. The last time I seen that engine was April of 2018.
Come on.
Wow.
Seriously. Yeah. So
I like to think that my engines are really reliable, but these show up every year.
Yeah,
we don't go that long.
And that is what we emphasize to customers. We like to see them every year, but most of these engines will go 100 passes as long as a guy does maintenance like we tell him, run the right oil. It's just like your world, Adam. If they run the right oil, works pretty good.
That's right.
That is impressive. That's hard to even fathom. What do you feel like? I mean, obviously it's a series of advances, the next week link. What do you feel like was the big breaking point, where you guys got into this newer power threshold? Is it, injection pumps, turbos? Was it, the introduction of the full billet block, getting rid of those water jackets? What really brought it there?
Well, what's amazing is the stock Cummins block, where we deck plated those things and put sleeves in them, Tyler. Yep. That motor will live at 3,300 horse. Don't get to 3,325. The block won't hold it. But we started tying those things together. So that was our threshold. And that's what about 5 years ago when we just started designing the block that's in the Rock Hard Ram right now. But, everything about this sport, just what you said, fuel pumps, turbochargers. I mean, we're exclusively Weimer here. And Steve and Jim out there at Weimer have just been godsend to us. I mean, you take Kurt, my son, is a mechanical engineer, and you get him and Steve together, and some of the crazy stuff we come up with over the years. Jonathan Mears don't like it a lot of times, but you just got to show him how it fits in his rule book.
Absolutely. If you could, like, what year was it when you guys started developing Haisley machine?
We started Haisley Machine in 85 when I got out of the military.
Okay. And if you could take one piece from today's technology, one sole piece, and bring it back to that day in 85 to help you now today, like what one piece would you take back with you to 1985?
I couldn't even think of that piece. I mean, that is seriously, that's how the sport has evolved full circle, Tyler. I mean, an engine is an engine. And thank God in my younger years for General Motors, they couldn't build a diesel engine. That paid our bills for years and years. Them old 6.2s and 5.7s. That's what made Haisley Machine right there.
No kidding. So you started out with the 6.2s. Yeah, my second vehicle I ever bought was an 84 K5 Blazer that came with a 6.2 diesel in it. And that thing got awesome gas mileage, but it was a nutless turd. And I even looked up online how to turn the pump up, but I put an
shorten
EGT
the fuel pump
in
shaft on those things. It helped out a little bit.
I just watched the EGTs absolutely climb, and I turned it back down shortly after that because I didn't want my dad to get mad at me. But yeah, the 6.2s. I mean, what's the most horsepower you ever got out of a 6.2 diesel?
I have no idea. Back in those days, you didn't even think about dynoing. If you could go out Saturday night and turn the lights out, and then you drug it home on the trailer because you broke the crank or broke a block. And then finally in 1993, we bought our first Dodge truck. And my dad worked for General Motors. And I had a license plate made for the front of it. And you won't believe this. It says, if I remember right, it said, what was it? Don't look at the Dodge, listen to the Cummins. Because I figured my dad would throw me off the farm when I drug that thing home. And he nicknamed that old truck Conestoga Wagon because it rode so bad. But my dad drove that thing every time he could get in it. He loved it, versus them old 6.2s.
Oh, yeah, because that was a 93, you said?
Yeah, 1993.
Yeah, I've got a 93 first-gen Cummins, and the thing's awesome. Unfortunately, my cab's falling apart because, like they say, a Dodge is nothing but a shipping crate for a Cummins, for sure.
Yeah,
but,
you take the modern trucks today are just like the old square-nose Chevrolets were years ago. They're all dying of cancer. And it's sad. And you're from Michigan, so you know all about that.
Everything's falling apart here. I bought that truck for $2,500 sight unseen on an online auction, and I assumed it didn't even run. But I'm like, Hell, it's got a 12 valve in it. It's got a 205 transfer case. It's got like I think it's a Dana 70 or Dana 80 in the front, and a Kingpin Dana 60 in the front. I'm like, I can part it out for $2,500 easy. I drove out there to the auction site, turned the key, fired right up, and I probably put 25,000 miles on it and did basically nothing to it. So, I mean, it was a great truck for sure. But that's funny that you mentioned the license plate. My nicest truck that I drive, which I notoriously just drive garbage, is a 1995 Dodge Dually. And my dad always had Duramaxes, but I was just disgusted with the complexity of them. So when I got my first 95 Cummins, I got a license plate that says F66DMAX. My dad said, "So what's that mean?" And I said, "It means fuck a 66 Duramax." and still to this day, that's my license plate on my dually outside.
Well, I tell people I'm dyslexic. I can only count to 6. 6 in a row, baby.
I love
But
Absolutely.
I mean, you gotta hand it to the Cummins engineers, guys. I mean, that little motor has got 7 main bearings, 7 cam bearings. It's virtually bulletproof. And then, now we put a Windberg crank in them. But we were just forced to take a block that didn't have water jackets because the complexity of the block, the integrity wasn't there. But 3,300 was the horsepower limit, and I tried that one night at Richland Center, pushing her a little past that, and it's amazing how quick your brain can work, Tyler, because when it happened, I'm like, oh shit, I just blew a turbo. And then the next millisecond, you're seeing the head and everything attached to everything above the main bearings is coming through the hood of the truck. And it's like, wow. And then you realize how stupid you are. You're throwing $75 roller lifters off the side of the track because you're trying to clear the stuff out. But if you ever want to show anybody your engine program, split a block like that, and they see it all.
Is that the most catastrophic damage you've had over the years?
Oh, hell yeah. You could have built a nice ranch home for what that cost Patty and I that night. But then, believe it or not, I was doing very well in PPL points that night. I took my son's motor and went to Doug Mueller's shop, which was a half a mile from the pull. I pulled Kurt's motor out and put it in a rock hard ram with Gorilla Tape, putting the hood back together. And I made the pull the next night, brother.
I love it.
Hell yes. That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I'm not near that stupid anymore, I don't think. But
Some
my
lessons-
son and my grandson, they are.
You're just old enough you can blame them now, Dan.
Yeah, you just got to learn some stuff the hard way for sure. It means more
Oh, yeah.
that way, right?
Oh, yeah. But I'll tell you, we went home, we analyzed what happened. We started tying the blocks together, and we got several more years out of those blocks before we were forced to go to the billet block. But what's amazing, when we put this billet block on the drawing board, we were not worried about weight. We made the block wider. We made the block taller to incorporate our deck plate. And all of a sudden, when we were all said and done, it was 100 pounds lighter. And we were just about it. Yeah. Yeah. How did we do that?
So walk us through that, because I think a lot of people don't really know this. Now, I think times have changed a little bit, but was it initially you started with the steel block and the machining process or whatever didn't allow for certain things to happen right in the engine? You guys ultimately ended up switching to aluminum. Is that correct?
Well, the whole reason we went to aluminum is just like, Adam, in your heads where you manufacture billet heads, the cost of machining. But LSM Machine in Waterford, Michigan started making a billet steel 5.9 block for the military to put in drug runner boats. And this thing was a boat anchor. Well, they made an engineering blunder in this thing, and they machined these blocks to size without ever normalizing the block. They should have normalized it, send it out for heat treat or normalize it, then bring it back and finish machine it.
Yeah.
But
could keep a crankshaft in it, probably.
Had one. Jane Barter had one. He now has Shane Kellogg's. But we line board it 7 times before we could get the crank. If you let it set for a week, the crank wouldn't turn, Adam.
That's crazy. Yeah, I heard that, like, they didn't do any stress relieving, normalizing, whatever, and they couldn't keep main bearings in them.
Yes, that is exactly right. And then Eric Stacy had multiple patches on his. I mean, just like a top fuel block. Like I told him, I said, you should have just machined 6 windows in it and bolted aluminum plates on the side of the block. Been a lot cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. So now they're all billet aluminum, though. Is that
pretty much everybody except Chaos? Chaos has an American-made ductile iron block made, and Kevin come to me, and Kevin and I shared my blueprints with Kevin, and so his block and my block are virtually the same, except he's got a side bolt cover on his that runs a tie bar lifter where I run a keyed lifter. Worst thing about my keyed lifter is you have to turn the block upside down and take the cam out to get the lifters out of it. I don't have access from the side of the block like you guys do in your V8s.
Gotcha.
You got to open it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but if you only got to open it up every 6 years, what's it matter, right?
Yeah. Except when Victory Valve decides to go overseas when they got bought out by race-winning brands, and we've got a bunch of Chinese blank valves. Ask Robbie Lemke and myself and some of the other major diesel engine builders about those wonderful valves we got.
Van, with the epic call out by name here.
Hey, I've happened to buy some stuff from a few of those companies, and race winning brands may be the name of the company, but I think a lot of other people call them like company ending brands because when they buy them out, they've done a lot of damage to them too. Yeah, I mean it's kind of been rough, but
I swear. I mean, I may upset some of your viewers here, guys, but I swear they're owned by the Democrats. And I swear they buy these good, reputable companies just to run them in the ground. And are they trying to just get rid of our sport? I mean, that's what it boils down to.
I think what it got with me is like you take a bunch of these small companies like an MGP, Victory, Manly, Trend. You start thinking of all these different companies that are under this umbrella. They all had their little corner of the market and were relatively, they had the customers that they dealt with.
Yes.
And somebody's looking at the outside going, man, look at all these successful companies. If we put them all underneath one umbrella, if we can take, this is just going to be a bankroll. And they ended up really damaging the reputation of all those companies. Because they're not been able to produce the same product they did before, do it in a timely fashion. And as we all know, I swear, like we were going through this stuff for a little bit with some connecting rods where the bolts are coming a little bit looser. And it was really weird. I had an older set of rods here that was brand new that a guy had bought but never used. And we're talking like 7-8 years old here. So I told a guy, I said, this is all I got on the shelf. You're more than welcome to use them if you want them. He puts them in and they run them. He said, damn, dude, the bolts ain't loosening them up like the new ones do. I said, well, if you think about it, the influx of all this Chinese metal and all this shit that we're getting these days, the material's not as good anymore. So our parts aren't as good as anymore. They cost twice as much and they're not even as good anymore. So it's I think a lot of it's from the manufacturing standpoint, not necessarily maybe what the company's doing, but where the material's coming from now.
I couldn't agree with you more, Adam. I mean, ARP is one of the best fastener companies in the world, but their base steel, if they get bad L19 and it's got hydrogen embrittlement inside of the material, when they manufacture that bolt or stud will break. And they can't x-ray that to know that it's in there. Right. So we've switched everything over on our rod bolts to 625 material. So we don't have to worry about hydrogen embrittlement anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've been dealing with it a lot. It's really crazy. You can make a cylinder head out of 3 different types of the same material, more or less.
Yes.
All 3 would be totally different. I mean,
yeah, and the machine different and
spring pockets will start beating in. It's just really crazy. Just nothing is stable. You have to buy good domestic, and it costs a lot. But the material is everything. And I think over the last few years here, we've been sold out for a bunch of Chinese shit, basically.
And I'm hoping that Trump will bring that back and get some of this manufacturing back into this country. And I really firmly believe that. And I mean, there's a lot said when it says made in the United States. I mean, made in the USA.
Yep.
That's
Man,
right. We got that beautiful word, tariff. Beautiful word.
Tariff.
Hey, I'm gonna say I don't want to get into politics very much. It was really funny. So I bought some material years ago from, and it was after these tariffs were infused into the. Now, what you have to remember is a tariff is anything coming in or out of the country, or in from other countries. Well, so I bought some material from his company. He says, "Well, you know, the tariffs, they raise the price of the material." I said, "No, dude, that's not how this works. Just because the Chinese material coming in from overseas has gotten it more expensive doesn't mean that you get to add to your price, inflate your prices, because now Americans are being forced to buy your product. That's bullshit." And that's what happened. You know, American companies were raising their prices because they knew they could get by with it. And that was never the way the tariffs were designed.
Yes, you're exactly right. But hey, guys, going back to this poll in California, I watched that last weekend, and I've got some fantastic customers out there, Chase. And Patty and I went out there to Madera a few years ago, and it was really cool because that's a racetrack. And so we would watch pulling, and then they would run some round cars. And then we'd go back to pulling. But Brian Massetti, I mean, wow, look at that guy, the gamble he took. I mean, he's got 2 Love sleds out there now, guys. I mean, and it was so cool. I watched your video, and I instantly called my guy that night, and I said, "Hey, you just changed the pump on that truck. Did you set the full throttle stop?" And I got a deer in the headlight look. I mean, it didn't smoke. And he went out the next night and won 20 foot. So your video won that guy a pull, and that's Everett Powell, his son Trent. They're American Crane. They furnished all the ground working equipment out there for the track. But I'm telling you, you get in that part of California, guys, it's fabulous. I mean, there are hard-working Americans out there. They're not the Fruit Loops to the north or to the south. Yeah, those are good working folk there. Yes.
Van, you may be my favorite guest we've ever had in this show. It's been a very patriotic last 8 days in our country. We don't get in politics, but you can obviously say what you want to say. And, you know, last Tuesday we all witnessed what took place, and then this past Monday was Veterans Day. And this is a great timing to have you on here, because I said this earlier, one of the coolest things about meeting you and getting to know you is that you're a veteran, and I don't know people know that enough. And I'm one. My grandparents and a lot of my family are veterans, and I think it's amazing, you know, that you're even involved in pulling for what you've done for our country. So I want to talk about your experience as a veteran, what you did, where you served, and so forth. Not because it's Veterans Day week, but just because I think it's a great story. And then kind of what led you, when you post military career, getting into what you've done, you know, with Haisley Machine and all this stuff you're doing now. So take us through the journey.
Well, the first journey started in Indianapolis, Indiana. I signed up on the military on St. Patrick's Day. So the recruiter got me drunk on green beer. And so anyhow, tanks, you know, are kind of like heavy equipment. So I thought that would be cool. So I went into tanks. And the coolest thing of all was I ended up on a tank called an M60A2. And there was not very many of them. They had a real short gun, like a Sherman tank in Vietnam, 152 millimeter, but they shot a Shillelagh missile. And that's probably one of the highlights of my military career. You could actually fly this missile, guys. When it left the gun tube, it was a fly-by-wire. Pretty cool. But then I was in Germany at the time. I went from Fort Knox, Kentucky. Me and Patty got married after that. We ended up in Fort Hood, Texas.
Oh, look at that. Who's that?
And, who are them kids?
That's awesome.
But then we ended up in Schweinfurt, West Germany. And because we was we were on border patrol. That's back when you had the Cold War going on. I mean, you had East and West Germany. And so we were the first company battalion that gets the M1 tanks. They had just went from experimental to M1s, and I was the first company that got them in Europe. And so we took that thing, and I mean, that was my first dealing with politics. And that's when I learned right then and there, 60 Minutes come over to Germany to interview us. And my company commander, Joseph D. Selesky, I mean, the nicest guy you ever met. And Joseph told us, if you don't want to talk to them fools, don't talk to them fools. But all they wanted to do was talk about every negative point about that tank. Things that have been fixed years before, but they still, just harping on it. And they didn't get much of an interview out of us. But I'll tell you a cool thing over there in Germany. Captain Selesky, Joseph D. Selesky, had a family event. Patty was umpteen months pregnant, boys. I mean, she was ready to pop. He let them the wives shoot machine guns, drive the tanks, drive the armored personnel carriers. Yeah, the only gun she didn't shoot was a 50 caliber because Kurt didn't like it. He kept kicking her. But this guy was the coolest. I mean, he respected us soldiers and really treated us well. And I would love to meet up with him today. He was just a phenomenal guy. I mean, he wasn't your West Point molded officer. He was just one of those guys, put on his pants one leg at a time like the rest of us guys. But the military was great to me. But I was a yo-yo. I could only spend just a few months in the States, and then I was right back to Germany. And we had already spent just 4 years in Germany. And so after 7 years, I give it up. And we started Haisley Machine on $20,000. And I don't know how I was ever going to pay it back. And Chase, you've seen what I got today. I'm super, super proud of where we're at. But I'm here to tell you, I can't do it without quality employees. Everybody in business knows that. Either you do it by yourself or you got to have a lot of quality employees. And, man, I've been to Brent Payne's shop, and Brent's the same way. I mean, he just raves on his employees because without them, you're nothing. You can't grow without them guys. So you treat them like family.
Absolutely.
That's very well said, Vane. And can't wait for your behind the scenes of Haisley Machine to go out to the public a month from now. It meant a lot to me just being there and seeing how you treat people and your leadership. And I'm not here to toot your horn because you're on the podcast. I've been talking about you since I left that place. So it's a tribute to our sport, but it's a tribute that you do what you do for a lot of people, and you're a veteran, so salute to you.
But I'll tell you something about being a veteran. Our local school just had a Veterans Day program, and they bust in all of the county schools, the elementary, and took all these kids to the high school. And I complimented the superintendent afterwards. I said, you guys squander a lot of taxpayers' dollars. But I said, you can do that because these young kids need to earn the respect that these veterans have afforded them. And I couldn't believe the turnout of the veterans there. It was phenomenal. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And the kids were very, very appreciative of all us and how the world has went full circle since Vietnam. Because those guys, I mean, they got treated like dog doo-doo when they come back. I mean, baby killers, you name it. I miss that era. I'm the next era. And so luckily I was in peacetime the whole time. Other than the Iran-Contra, that was the other time I was sitting on an airplane, thought we were going to get deployed. So, but it done me good. And I encourage young people all the time, if you're mad at the world and you can't get along with your parents, that's a good place to go. But my problem was, Chase, Jimmy Carter was in office, 21% interest. My dad looked at me. He said, I don't know what the hell you're going to do, but you sure as hell ain't going to farm. So what do?
How did you take to the obvious, the drill sergeants and everything and how strict they are? And obviously it's not for everybody to get yelled at and browbeat and put down. Can you kind of take us through how your training went?
I'll tell you what, Adam. Here's my take on the military. You either lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way.
Right.
And I was the honor graduate in basic training. And I mean, I'm not tooting my own horn, but me and a good friend of mine, he's retired. He retired as a sergeant major, Stuart Holder. Me and him through our whole career was 1 and 2 in everything we do. And I mean, it's like any other job. if you really put your heart at it, you can do anything you want. And if you're on top of the pile, you don't get your ass eat out by that DI. He's only yelling at the POSs.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're ahead of the crowd, but I'll tell you what, now PT in the military, them guys are in sweats and tennis shoes. Hell, I could used to run 2 miles, guys, in combat boots in 11 minutes. This old fat boy could do it.
Jeez, that is moving.
Moving.
Now they can't get 2 inches from the face and spit, and you can taste what they ate last night.
Right. I hear tell that like even the Marines, I hear tell today, if the drill sergeant's getting on you too far, you can ask for a timeout now.
Right.
You got a timeout back in my day, stuffed in a trash can or something like that, or got a swirly, or.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's wild. Van, what was the moment when you were younger that inspired you mechanically to start tearing things apart and seeing what makes it work? You don't just walk out of the service and just decide to tear apart a motor. I mean, was there something before that? You said tanks were like heavy equipment, so there was a connection there. How early did this start?
I started working at International Harvester when I was 15. I was sweeping floors, and then the next thing I know, I'm putting bearings in tractors, Tyler. But my whole entire life, I mean, me and my brother, I mean, my God, we could weld when we was probably 8 years old, and you just, when you're on a farm, anybody around a farm, if it's broke, Adam will tell you this, if it's broke, you fix it, because you can't afford to take it to town to get it fixed. And so we didn't have a big fancy shop or nothing growing up, but by God, we could fix anything. My dad would jump in with both feet. And I don't know. I got that from him, and I respect that today. When you're young, you don't appreciate your dad, but when you get a little older, you're like, he wasn't as dumb as I thought he was.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, I am so proud of my family. I mean, we wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this, Chase, if Patty didn't love it. She loves the people. We love our customers, and we got some of the best customers in the world. But for my grandson that just up out of the blue decided to do this, and I mean, he is in this both feet in, and now for our third generation to already be in the winner's circle, I mean, this has inspired my son, and that's what it took to get him re-inspired.
What was that moment like watching your grandson go down the track for the first time?
Man, I'm telling you, you don't think these kids are paying any attention when they're younger. They're back there playing in the back seat with their game boards and stuff. But them guys are an empty computer, and they're soaking all this stuff up. And I can remember back years ago, Trip, the one's driving the truck now, Kurt's oldest boy, Patty was in the shop here, and she was trying to listen to him, and he was mimicking the announcer, and it's Shane Kellogg with Gotta Have It. And Patty started taping him, and I wish we could play that today. But that is so cool. And, they just played here in the shop, but those boys are so wound up about sports until Trip just up out of the blue decided to pull this year. And his dad told him, he said, if you're going to pull, you're going to work on it. You know all about that, don't you, Tyler?
Oh, and,
even though our motors are very, very reliable, we still got clutch, cleanup, tires. There's 100 hours of work for every 13 seconds of fun. And, but it's just amazing. But the other thing he loves about it is the women. I mean, these women, he never had any interest in girls in his life. And these girls have come out of the woodwork, boys and girls. And he really likes that a lot.
All-American sport, right?
Oh, yeah. They talk about Dale Earnhardt Jr. when he first got in the store, how many pairs of panties he used to get in the mail. I keep asking Trip, I said, you got any panties yet? He said, no, Mom won't let me have them.
I'm sure he's tuned in right now, just loving every moment of you speaking about him.
But, you got to be proud of them kids. But, man, Kurt's kids are both straight A students, Chase. So they're fantastic athletes. And for them to show interest in this, but Trip for the last couple of years, at any time he was able to come to a pool, he would always start the truck. I'd let him move it around. And he had a very, very good grasp of concept. And we started, Tyler. Years ago, I started with mini rods at the state level. Most people don't even know that. Yeah.
I knew that. You had told me that before. Tell us, is that your first pulling vehicle?
Yeah. During the blizzard of 1977 and 78, didn't have anything to do, and it started out being a snow machine. And the next thing I knew, there was a local guy had a mini rod. I didn't even know what it was. So we went and looked at it. I said, we can build that. And so we did. And but I went into service then in 78, and so my brother campaigned on the state level there, and I don't know, I think one of the Y songs, the one that builds the wheels, he eventually ended up with that the tractor and the chassis when we got out of the sport.
How many passes do you think you made in that mini rod?
No, I didn't make that many of them, but my brother, he made several of them. But we never got out of the state level. It was all natural aspirated stuff. Here in Indiana years ago, I don't know if you remember this, there was a team from Fort Wayne called the Three Kings, and they were the first ones to put blowers on mini rods. And, I mean, they took the sport to new levels. And it was hard to compete with them when you was, a farmhand.
Does a small part of you still kind of be like, I kind of want to run one of those things again?
No, I have no desire. Sometime or another, I'll dig some old photos out and show you. I flipped it over on me, and this was back before roll cages and everything else on the road, Tyler. I see the motor was running, so I went on the road and just stomped the throttle, and it had twin 4 barrels in the back 4 barrel. The throttle stuck on it, and it was a yeehaw off to the rodeo. And
you and Tyler are Eskimo brothers.
Yeah, and so it had 4-into-1 headers that went up. Those headers saved my life.
Nice. Those were stout headers, no lightweight units there.
That's back when they put iron and stuff. They were old hookers, I think they were. Yeah. So
you could say that a pair of hookers saved your life.
Yeah, pair of hookers. That ain't all bad, brother.
You just noticed Patty went behind him. I don't know if she heard that or not, right?
I heard it.
I love it.
Throw it up a little bit. You were stating that these 3,300 horsepower Cummins before they come apart. Do you think there's any way that a diesel Cummins would ever compete in the mini rod class?
It's too heavy. We have talked about that, and then Craig Sage at SDS. He's really, really good friends with Shane Kellogg, and Craig talked to me a few years ago, and this is back before I had the aluminum blocks. But Craig was talking about putting 2 of these on his tractor because of how reliable they were. And he was asking me if he thought we could make enough horsepower. But, with those mods having that big of a tire and the way they drive them, I mean, there is no driving them like we have to drive them. So I think it would work. But in the mini rods, we're building 4-cylinders for the Western Series. Kevin Moore has one of our little 4BT Cumminses in that tractor, but he struggles because it's just too heavy on the nose, Tyler. He can't get the nose to transfer weight. So
I don't have that problem at all.
Yeah, you don't have that. You've earned your Air Force wings many years ago, brother.
When you're as fat as me, you really have no choice. It just happens.
There's a funny thing there. That 4-cylinder Cummins. Kevin come to us and he said, "Hey," he says, "you think you can make 700 horse?" And Kurt says, "Yeah, I think we can make that." So the first pass on the dyno, this thing did over 1,000. And he said, "Oh my God, you got to turn it down." Well, that lasted about 3 pulls, and then you know where the wick's at today. So we're in the process of building him a billet aluminum head. We're trying to lighten this thing up as much as we can, and they're going to allow him to have a billet head. So that'll be a big asset. I think we can take 100 pounds out of the head at least.
So when you talk, 3,300 horse out of a 6-cylinder, you do 3,300 divided by 6 and times that back by 4, you're at like 2,200. How light could you get a 4BT series engine, and how much, if that's 2,200 out of a 4BT, how much torque are we getting out of that? And how much does that weigh?
Well, that's the problem. But, he's been like at Henry, Illinois. He pulled out there a few years ago with you guys, PPL, and they were supposed to just set the sled up to where he would be, look like a hero, but they left it set for you guys. Oh my God, he wasn't even in the same county. I mean, it was embarrassing. Yeah.
But to compare it to your 3,300 number before, obviously he's not pushing his that hard, just how much power could you get out of a 4BT, and would it have more torque than the modern day V8? And weight wise, would that be competitive, or is it still just too large of a gap?
Nah. The RPMs, you guys got the RPMs where the 4-cylinder doesn't have the 6 cylinders to fill, and then he can't run an intercooler. That's the other thing. That magic box we run, that's what allows us to come out of the hole so low RPMs and then accelerate on down the road to keep our tires hooked up. And he can't run that, so he's got to run like you guys. Get it to $5,000, 5,500, sidestep the clutch, and yeehaw, burn them off. Yeah. He's getting better every year. He's getting aluminum sheet metal put on that little harvester. And when he pulls with just diesels, it's unbelievable. When he pulls, even he can compete with the small blocks, but not the big blocks.
Yeah, I drank some beer with him this past summer when
he's a great guy.
With It's No Joke team there with the turbocharger.
Yeah.
He's a good time. He's fun.
Boy, there's a guy that's trying to innovate something, but boy, is he a hard road to hoe.
Yes, I respect the shit out of what that guy's doing.
I think we all respect him. I just wouldn't want to have his headaches that he's literally.
I mean, Mike is over the top as far as an engineer and designing stuff.
He's brilliant.
But I don't know. Tyler, how boxed up your and Adam's tractor is. He's got them turbos hanging way out there. Is that just give it a ton of side load to just get all kinds of funky?
I don't know if it's certainly it's a ballast thing with getting the nose high, but as far as left to right, that's probably not helping. I don't know how really heavy that stuff is, but one thing I do know is I feel like if anybody's going to stick with it, it's going to be him, and he's going to figure it out one day. And I just hope to hell that they don't crack down on the poor guy and start taking power away from him when he gets his first win, because somebody that puts in that much time deserves to have their flowers and stand up top for a while.
You're exactly right. And, we go back even, you guys keep talking about I'm the grandfather of this deal.
No, the godfather, not the grandfather. You're not old enough to be a grandfather, just a godfather.
As we were building these things, one year I put 9 ring and pinions in the back of Kurt's truck. And I'm like, screw this, we're putting a bigger rear end. And all I hear from the other pullers, you can't do that. I said, who the hell's going to stop us? And it's just like everything else. If you build it, they will come. And
absolutely.
So you finally got to show them that, hey, we got to have this. But it's really, really nice right now. I don't want them to change our sport, because I don't care who's got the most money. You still got to drive that thing. And that kind of is neat. And it's really because our limiting factor, we can make all horsepower in the world, but you got 4 little 18.4 tires.
I was going to say, it seems like that equalizer in your guys' class, like everybody can make almost, it seems, as much power as they want. If any class drives it out the furthest distance, it's the diesel 4-wheel drives for sure. I mean, we'll see guys get well beyond 200, 250 plus at times before you go wide open with those things. And you like that, correct? You don't think anything needs to change. That's a good equalizer. We don't want these things on bigger tires. It kind of keeps everything consistent, right?
And Vaughn Bowers has done a great job. Vaughn knows that we put on a good show if he lets us run 350. And so, Vaughn really does that. And then, Bumgart, Donnie, he's done a great job for us. We used to just hate his sleds. And so whenever we were there, they always had a Richard Love sled for us. And Donnie worked on his sled. He gives us a good ride now. And but you're right. We got to go fast and we got to go far to put on a good show, because you got to get it hooked up and keep it hooked up.
So when some people cry when the track gets over 320 feet, you're like, no, 350 plus, that's where it's at.
I don't care. We'll run 400 all night long as we only do it once, baby. One and done.
Right. Yeah. Okay, one and done. You're a no pull-off guy, huh?
No pull-off. No pull-off. Yeah.
Okay.
Van, obviously, this class is emerging by the day. It seems like it's one of the most popular classes in pulling. I think it's fair to say, but it seems like it somewhat happened overnight. And being one of the founders of getting this class up and going, there's a lot of stories that go with that. I didn't ask you this while I was there with you that day at your shop, but I've heard there's quite the stories from when you have a diesel four-wheel drive and like who do you run it against? And I believe OSTPA, you went over there and ran with them a lot and got going. But like, how can you explain what it's like rolling in with the truck that nobody really knows what it can do, run against blown four-wheel drives or an open class or so forth? I'm sure there's a lot that went into that.
What's that guy's name that run the semi? I'll tell you a funny story about that. Mike Larrabee, the first OSTPA, those guys begged us to come over there. You run your rules, we'll run our rules. That was the name of the game. Their class was dying. I mean, they were down to 5-6 trucks a night.
This is the blower four-wheel drive class,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I showed up at Mount Gilead, Ohio, and I'm the first diesel to come over there. And Mike Larrabee's dad, we had a sticker on the back of that old Dodge that said, this ain't no Hemi. And he walked over and he looked at the truck. He said, boy, he said, after tonight, he said, you're going to wish you had 2 Hemis underneath the hood of that thing.
Oh, shit.
I like it. Van's a shit talker, too.
It was so funny. That was the first time I ever met Jimmy Miller. And anybody that knows Jim Miller is a lot like Larry Richwine. He will stand his ground. So I respected Jim Miller. Well, anyhow, when the smoke cleared, boys, I was sitting down at the end of the track, and I ended up third that night with them blowers. Second. Patty just corrected me. I was second. And but me and Shane Kellogg, we went over there, and thank God for Shane because he lives in that area. So every time I would win OSTPA, I would thank Shane for the power in the shower because I would just pull my rig into Shane's farm, plug it in, take a shower, hop in the Jeep, and come home. And then, I mean, like OSTPA has 30 plus events a year. Sure. I mean, so you're pulling multiple times a week. And I mean, tell you what, guys, it's hard to work and pull OSTPA. I don't know how those guys do it. That's a job to pull it.
Right.
But
they end up having 27, 4 rainouts.
Yeah, the year Shane won the points.
Yeah, they scheduled 31 hooks, 4 rainouts. We ran 20 of 27.
Yeah, we run 20 of 27 events that year with the rainouts.
Wow.
And that was the year Shane won the points. Well, that was the year they crucified us then. You know, we're going to get 2 inches of hitch and you're going to drop an inch and blah, 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 blah. And I mean, I understand. It's just like the alcohols and the diesel. You're never going to make both people happy. It's impossible. But I'm telling you, Case, people love that class because you had noise and you had smoke.
Okay, so to bring that up,
they had to keep the track under 320. If you let us get them diesels wound up above 320, them blowers suck.
They're done. You also made a comment to me. You made a comment to me, and don't get mad at me. You already got mad at me once for saying that.
No.
I'm kidding, Van.
Yeah.
But you said those guys helped you become good pullers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because Tommy Tremolian told us years ago, and a lot of people don't even know who Tommy Tremolian is. TFS Performance. We used to dyno down at Tommy's before we had our dyno. And Tommy told me one time, he said, if you guys ever learn how to drive one of them damn diesels, he said, you'll beat everybody in the class 20 feet. Well, we went over there, and you get on a shitty track, we used to just sidestep the clutch and kick the door and kind of drive them like a mini rod. You know what I mean, Adam? Well, that don't work in the diesel world. So we figured out how to drive them, and we changed our turbochargers. We changed our injection pumps. And once we learned how to hook the tires up, those blower guys didn't like us anymore. But Shane Kellogg and I were a dominant force in this sport to start with. But I got to compliment, let's go back a few years, Tyler. Oh, Mike Chastain. You remember Mike?
Sure
Christy's
do.
husband? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, ex-husband. Okay, let's
Yeah.
correct that. Patty's back there. She's like a fact checker.
I like it.
But I compliment Mike because Mike was the first one that brought us up to the national stage, the old ATPA days. And it was me and Kurt, and I don't remember who else. Ben Miller was there, Kent Crowder.
And that's it.
And
Dave Mitchell when he came.
Yeah. And so, I
feel like 25 years ago, like it became trendy, like the diesel world. When you're in high school, somebody gets their first vehicle, it's a diesel truck, and everybody's like, oh my God, look at that guy. And like, it's relatable because people have the diesel trucks. Yeah, we can go out there with our mini rods or 4-engine tractors and make a bunch of noise, and people are like, yeah, that's neat. But when you guys roll out there with either the Cummins or the Duramax, go out there, people are like, yeah, that's the truck that I got at home. It's not, but it's relatable. And the fact that they took that risk, Mike Chastain did, and he recognized that, like you say, kudos to him because it worked. It's a popular class.
And then when they made us a champ tour class, but exactly what you said, Tyler, everybody can relate to a pickup truck. They can't relate to yours, even though yours is so far more cool than mine.
Nah, I don't know. You got the black smoke. You get to roll coal, Van. That's all the kids are doing.
Hey, remember what you started in, Van, right?
Thank God we get to roll it for 4 more years because when the tree hugger's going to shut us down? That's what I'm scared of.
Hey, how about this? I think, Shell Rotella, they're actually working on a renewable diesel fuel that they are releasing that's supposed to be good for the environment.
Okay.
So I think there's always still going to be hope that, the diesel stuff's going to be fine. One question I had for you is I've heard a little rumor, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I maybe heard some rumors that OSTPA really likes to have that diesel and blower trucks back together again, and that maybe if the blower trucks make their chassis as long as the diesels, that they might be competitive again. Is that something that makes sense or no?
Well, that's something that makes sense, and that's what we told them. And you take Richard Love, which runs now the Full Pull organization out there. He took a lot of advice. I went out to one of his pulls out at the Weekland event. I can't even tell you what town that is out in Pennsylvania. Chest Springs, Pennsylvania. But anyhow, he created a box, Tyler. And he don't care what motor you got, anything else. You got a 158-inch wheelbase. You can weigh 7,500 pounds. You can have a DT 466. You can have a blown Hemi. You can have nitrous oxide. As long as you fit in this box, we all pull together. And I'll tell you what, it's cool as can be pulling with them guys. Yeah, it really is. I enjoy it, but it's just too far to travel every weekend.
Yeah, we did go to one of those events, and it was really cool to see. I know you're talking about you diesel guys were there, and there was blown trucks. There was some guy with DOT tires, but to see that stack up top, and it's just, a diesel just took it. Oh, a blower one just took it. And like, it's fun to watch, especially when you get some parity like that. And you got big name guys that are, running against people that you've never seen run against this guy. And, that's a pretty good blower on that. Yeah, but we know how good that diesel truck does. I mean, it grabs attention for sure.
I tell you, in the fans, that's what this sport's all about. We're just entertainers, guys. That's all we are, entertainers. And people don't realize that. But, you don't like to go if there's only 500 people in the seats. So what Chase is doing, kudos to him, buddy. I mean, we've been stagnant for too many years. And, everybody can gripe and complain about what RJ Simon's doing. Hey, you got to do something. I mean, we can't go out and you win NTPA, you can't even afford to fill your semi up. I mean, so we got to do something different here, guys. We got to get more. We're never going to get to the level of NASCAR, but we need to get to where you can break even.
That'd be neat.
Yeah, it would be. I mean,
sure.
there's no reason we can't pull for $10,000 every weekend like you guys do at the MAC Nationals. I mean, yeah.
That's a wonderful pull for sure, and he does a phenomenal job getting sponsors on board, putting this up on that big stage. And like you say, you don't want to pull in front of 500 people. And I mean, to be in Louisville there with the house basically packed and pulling in there, I mean, just pulling in there, you get goosebumps. We're not even firing the damn things up yet. Like, that is just a cool, kick-ass environment.
And you know what I'm talking about? You and Adam both. Chase, he don't know this. But, man, there is nothing better than to get to the end of the track and you can hear the crowd and you have got your helmet off.
Yeah.
Like Bowling Green. There's nothing like all those guys at Bowling Green. I mean, it's over the top. And we need to figure out how to have multiple venues like that a year. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's an out of body experience almost. You could say, you know.
It is.
You got to be easy on Chase. He's got his fans too, you know.
No. Van has
Van caught on to the format real quick.
It was that statement that I didn't know what that was like.
But Chase, I mean, you and your dad, you took a big financial gamble here, and I appreciate everything you're doing. And Patty and I, our whole entire life has just been to improve the sport. That's, right. I mean, we're entertainers. We got to figure out how to get butts in the seats now.
I think we need.
Absolutely.
I think you need to run for political pulling office, Van.
I'd get crucified, brother.
Are you on any of the? Have you been on the NTPA class committee at anything over the years?
For years.
I have been the class representative for years and years, and I mean,
They usually don't want to hear what we
what does that
they
mean?
don't want to hear what we have to say, just like they don't want to hear what you have to say, Adam.
Yeah.
And but man, I mean, there is such a disparity in purses between the PPL and NTPA. It's not funny. And
I have to agree with that, because that was like the one thing
that.
I felt that I did. I got to, when I was in, as I wasn't the president, I was just a part of the committee or whatever. I said, can we at least get paid? It was Mini Rods and Super Farms made the same money. I was like, can we at least make what the two-wheel drives make? Like, it's just a little bit more. It's like $300 more. And it's like, oh my God. Everyone's like, I did my job.
But the other thing,
enough, but whatever.
You know, Miss Patty always sees the checks, like your mama sees the checks. I don't see the checks.
I don't either, Van. I don't either.
But I didn't realize there was such a disparity. If it was a 2-day event, the money went down so much on a 2-day event. What a slap in the face. Yeah. And so, but believe you me, I mean, I love all the organizations. And the big thing about pulling NTPA is every weekend we pull the same sled. Every weekend. That's the difference of PPL. There's no disparity between this track's great, that track's great. I'll tell you, the PPL guys a few years ago, Tyler Slaw, got educated at Farley, Iowa. Jimmy Miller built a track out in Farley, Iowa the first year, and I believe Steve Boyd, he took a hell of a ride that year. Those guys didn't know Jimmy Miller. And I won both nights out there. I mean, my truck loves a track. If I've got a track, unleash the beast and let's have some fun. Yeah. And but then RJ Simon bought a Pro Stock, so pickup trucks out, Pro Stocks in, which I can't blame you. Yeah.
What a shame, huh? You need to build him a big smoke rolling motor for that 4-wheel drive he's got, you know?
Well, you know, maybe I need to talk to RJ, but I watched your Hutchinson, Minnesota. That all of a sudden that showed up on Facebook last night. I don't know where it come from. I'd never seen the video. And RJ was the commentator on the show. And you know, it was one of them nights I had a phenomenal night. I put it where nobody else had went, laid out a 342 and some change, jumped over the hill. Nobody thought I would get beat. And then Nick Gillette come up and put it right in my tracks. He done the same thing I would do. And he ended up beating me a few feet, but they were turning the grader at the end of the track. So once I jumped over it, knocked the hill off, that left a pretty good runway for Nick. But, you know, hey, that's pulling. But like I said for years, if you pull, you take the lead. You know what I'm talking about, Tyler, and Adam does too. If you take the lead when you pull, you did your job. If you get beat,
That's right.
you can't. I mean, hey,
You did your part.
the number's wrong. The track changed. The sun went down. I mean, Adam's dad, I respected Adam's dad. Me and him, we never drink beer together because I'm not much of a beer drinker. But, I mean, the best dad is when we were at Rockwell, Iowa. He was on one scale and I was on the other, and we were sitting there bullshitting. And, I mean, I just had a great job. I mean, great conversation with Larry. Love that guy.
So sometimes you have to wait in line at Rockwell if you want to.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
You'll have that.
It's nice. It's very nice. It's a nice wait. It's a nice line there. But
yeah. And kudos to Marvin. Marvin is finally figuring out that all scales are different. A regular vehicle. You guys all know, and mini rods, you know how you're fighting weight every night. When a scale's off 200 pounds, there's something wrong. And I mean, 4-wheel drive pullers, unlike you guys, we can't move weight. If we take 200 pounds out of our weight box, our shocks and our springs are completely screwed. And so Christy was the first one that she will roll a Champ Tour truck across the scales. Whatever that number is, we don't care what it is. We all roll across the scales. Nobody moves any weight. And finally, Marvin got on board with that. So,
at least for our class.
Yeah, at least for our class. But, he really went to a lot of work this year, Chase. Marvin did. I mean, at a lot of events, you've seen him stacking weights on the scales to certify the scales. So, kudos to Marvin. I mean, he's actually doing his job. He's going beyond it. Maybe he takes it a little too far sometimes. Fuel testing, for one.
Yeah. I wanted
to talk about that. Hang on. That's a
Okay.
question I had written down. I see that you guys, even on your website, you sell the red heat.
Yes.
The red heat is like a fuel additive.
Yes.
Tell us about what that does. Tell us about the benefits of making your fuel hotter. How do you know when it gets too hot?
Can you put it in your regular vehicle? Can you put it in your regular vehicle?
Yeah, you can put it in your regular vehicle, but I mean, it's basically $7 a gallon when you're adding this additive. But just like gasoline, cetane is an octane improver. But the problem with cetane is like dumping sand into your fuel. So cetane dries your fuel out. So when you consequently add cetane will bring up basically your octane, and then you have to add lube. So we sell the red heat. Well, the problem with the red heat is across the United States, you've got all kinds of fuel coming from all kinds of different pipelines. So I can't guarantee that your fuel's not 40 cetane and the guys in New York are getting 46 cetane. So then this year here, we started mixing our own fuel. And then we've got 2 testers here, and we test each and every batch to make sure that it is legal, because that's where Ryan DeBrow got bumped at Toma this year.
Tell us about what happened there.
Well,
a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, after we run across the scales, you are ready for competition. So you are ready for competition. So Marvin went through the pits and took fuel samples out of all these vehicles. Well, I sell red heat to Ryan DeBrow. Well, come to find out, he sent me his base fuel, and we sent it to a lab and checked it. His base fuel is 13 points better than the base fuel here in Indiana. And all that means is it's got more B in it. You take Minnesota, Wisconsin, they've got a lot of farmers up there, and like Minnesota, the Soybean Association puts a lot of money in Region 5. And so, but bean will transfer electricity. And so that'll throw your dielectric meter off.
Yeah, the conductivity is all different, right?
Yes. And that's all they're crucifying you because you're running too much lube in your fuel. It's not that you're cheating, but that's the rules they made, so we got to stay in that box once again.
Do you feel like those rules could use improvement? And if so, what would that look like?
Well, the biggest thing is the testers that NTPA has, they have 3 testers today. Those testers are old and antiquated. You can't buy them. So now we have to buy a tester called Digitronics. And then the formula of a Digitronic and their tester is totally different. But you got to do the math. And so Marvin and I have worked to figure out the math. But
NTPA needs to spend some money and buy a up-to-date fuel tester.
To be fair, I feel like we should clarify that, the fact that they are testing is something that all competitors are a fan of, because that means they're taking this seriously. They're trying to do their job. Taking the easy way out would just be doing no testing whatsoever. So we're not trying to get on here and chastise an organization for trying to do their job and keeping competition fair. We all know that. But, it's still a talking point that was very hush-hush around the polls, and people would kind of talk in small circles, but nobody's really shined a light on, what went on there and what the ins and outs are about how that happens. So,
and people that are checking fuel that they think is good. And it's
if you read all of the diesel rules, we're not allowed any alcohol in our water injection. We're not allowed any oxygenators in our fuel. But as I showed Marvin and I showed Jonathan Mears and now Larry Richwine, you can go down to Walmart and buy you a little cast iron skillet. And all you got to do is have a grill lighter and a cast iron skillet. I don't care what you put in diesel fuel that is a legal product. When you put the lighter to it, it will burn. You take the lighter away and it won't burn. The illegal diesel fuel, the second you put the lighter to it, it woofs like gasoline. And so that's illegal. So they could just sobriety check the top 5 or whoever they want. But this dielectric, just like Ryan DeBrow, he did not cheat. I sold him a product. His fuel was better than my fuel, so it was illegal according to their tester. And worst thing is, they're testing the super stock diesels and the semis. Those are 2 classes, Chase, that can't even fill a whole class. So why are they messing with those guys?
Same reason they put a lug count on the mini rod tires. It means it has no purpose.
Van, I gotta ask a question. What we run V8 alcohol performance engines are not new to motorsports, but are there any other motorsports that run off diesel or test diesel besides tractor pulling? I'm just curious.
No. See,
so basically, they're trying to innovate something to test that hasn't been tested before in a roundabout way.
They're trying to keep the illegal fuel out, but the testers we're using will not find that illegal fuel. That's the problem.
You're willing to show them how to find that and where to look.
Oh my God. I took a whole fuel demonstration to the WPI board at at Enderley. And
this year?
Nobody was interested.
This year you did that?
Yeah. Nobody was interested.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's so simple. If you think a guy's cheating, you were talking about earlier in your show, weighing vehicles on the way out. Well, I tell you what, in the 4-wheel drive class, we've caught so many cheaters when they're coming off the track, hitches that move in competition.
Whoa.
And we knew a guy that went from middle of the pack to Superman. And at Fort Recovery, Adam, if you get in a pull-off, even though you're in the pull-off, you run across the drawbar pad again. All of a sudden, his hitch is 2 inches too high. The guy tells him, he said, if you're going to pull, you're going to lower that hitch. Well, we knew right then the guy's hitch was moving. He was cheating. And so
that's crazy. Say their name, Van.
No, I'm not blowing up. They're not in sport no more. So yeah, guys. Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
With all this said, though, I think this is the fuel testing thing is interesting because they're creating a blueprint for testing diesel fuel that nobody else has ever done, and I think through time all this will be fine tuned. And
I think what else needs to be said is they need to have a tester that's common for everybody that anybody can go to the store and buy. Right?
And that's not readily available. And if you call Digitronics and tell them you're wanting to test diesel fuel, they will tell you that tester is not designed to do that. But see, if you run straight B100, they test that fuel with a hydrometer, like they test your alcohol.
The buoyancy source.
So yeah.
I'm a fan because it's one thing for, so often people want to sit here and they want to complain about stuff. And then you look at them and you say, what do you think we should do about that? And they go, well, I don't know. I guess I really don't have the answer. I just think it's a problem. But you're saying, hey, here's a problem. Here's a solution.
Yes.
And that, to me, gives you the right to complain about it, for sure. But, all right, we don't want to offend too many people's feelings tonight, so we're going to move on from that topic. And
because we could go another hour on that, it sounds
like.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it. Yeah.
I feel like we didn't tiptoe around it. Nobody can accuse us of, dancing around that because we're a no-nonsense show. We might catch some flack for the topics we cover, but we go right for it.
Just Chase.
Yeah, Chase will catch flack. We won't, so it's fine. All right, we're gonna.
I'm amazed at Chase how quiet he's been, guys.
He's been pretty quiet, man. I'm not gonna lie.
He has. You need another Seagram 7 or what, brother?
It was done whenever you said, "Hey, whenever you take the lead, the crowd goes wild." I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that.
I'm telling you, these two guys know what I'm talking about. There is not a better feeling in the world.
One day, maybe I can get me a diesel four-wheel drive that you.
Or just let Brian McDonald drive it.
Well, when you got 4 Hemis in front of you, Chase, hell, I don't care how loud the crowd is. You can't hear them till you shut them things off.
Yeah, that's right. My dad drives that, not me.
Oh, Chase,
you the mini rod most of the time?
Yeah. Whatever's left to drive, I drive.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Chase went like 2 feet with the 4-engine tractor once, though, didn't you, Chase?
2 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bumped it. I set a record on the shortest distance ever pulled bumping the sled. So my dad broke a rear end a couple of years back at a Chapel Hill, Tennessee on Friday night. And it's a pretty frustrating moment. He wadded up the rear end housing and he's like, well, I'm not going to sit here all day to bump this sled. I'm going to start drinking beer. So you got to bump this sled. I'm like, so I don't drive this tractor ever. He made me get on there and bump this sled. And I remember these guys were my friends. I'm like, all right, I'm driving the Unlimited tonight. And they're like, oh shit, really? Like, yeah, I'm going to see if I can go the shortest distance in pulling history. So I barely nudged the sled and went like, I don't know. I went less than a foot, but I don't know if I have a record or not. But yeah, that was my one time driving.
I remember knowing.
Hey, it was a positive distance.
That's right.
But the coolest part is my dad said, I'm not fucking sitting here all day to bump a sled. I'm drinking beer. You're driving it. So what a dad to put you in an iconic moment.
Yep.
I love it. I love it. All right, Van, we're going to do what we call the rapid fire segment. I've got a dozen questions loaded up. Some of these are silly. They're nonsense. We don't need an explanation or anything, just a quick one-word answer, basically. And doesn't have to be one word, but a short answer. We'll roll right into the next one. So, number 1, would you rather have a wild raccoon in your house or a dozen mice?
I'll take a dozen mice.
What puller would be the most likely to burn down their own house trying to deep fry a turkey on Thanksgiving?
That'd have to be Kellogg.
I can see that. Would you rather use a spoon for the rest of your life or a fork? You have to just choose one.
I'll take a spoon.
Yeah, that makes sense. You better be grilling some good steaks then. What tech official could make the best homemade pizza if they own their own restaurant?
That'd be Larry Richwine.
Oh, good choice. Would you rather spend a Saturday at the golf course or at the casino?
Hell, I'll go to the casino. I ain't chasing no golf ball around a cow pasture.
I like that. What four-wheel drive diesel puller do you think would have the best chance to get a hold of hitting a 99-mile-an-hour major league pitch?
That'd be my son.
I like it. What would you prefer as a topping for scrambled eggs, chocolate syrup or mustard?
Oh, God. I'll take the chocolate syrup.
Good choice. If you could communicate with one animal species other than dogs and cats, what would it be?
A horse.
If you were on a deserted island covered in old broken down cars and trucks and you have to select one truck or tractor puller to help you build a homemade boat from that junkyard to escape, who would you choose?
I'd choose old Ron Perry with Solid Junk. You remember him?
Yep.
I've heard of him. Absolutely.
I'm telling you what, that guy could build anything. He's a, I don't know how you put this. He's a lost hero. There you go.
Sounds like he'd be right at home in that scenario for sure. Would you rather fight a cow to the death once a year or fight a large swan every Saturday morning?
I'll fight the cow once a year.
That's a good move. Good move for sure. If someone offered you $500,000 today, but every year you waited to take that money would double every time, how many years would you wait to take that?
Buddy, I'll take the 500,000 now.
Absolutely. All about the
Not on a 30-year plan anymore, boys.
I hear you. And lastly, Van, it's hard to keep track of statistics in the diesel four-wheel drive class with so many tough competitors, but how many times do you think that you have beaten off constantly?
Well, the joke used to be you either had to be rock hard or off constantly in our shop. But never did an announcer make that mistake.
I couldn't resist going there. Some may call that low-hanging fruit, but I had to.
I know. It was that when Kurt named that thing, he heard that on Bob and Tom out of Indianapolis radio station.
Oh, yeah.
You know, about some softball team that just sucked. And it was a girls' softball team. We just beat off constantly.
For those fans that don't know what the name of Van's truck is, we didn't give its proper intro. What's the name of it?
Rock Hard Ram.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
And it's safe to say that over the years, Van, you honestly don't even know how many times you've beaten off constantly.
No, I couldn't even say.
That truck was pretty dominant for a while, actually.
I mean, and that's why Kurt got out of the sport, because he was accused of cheating every night. And then we're building, 40 plus competition motors a year. Well, your motor's got more than mine, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, we about went to blows with some customers over the years and told them to have their truck here Monday morning. Other competitors. And we'll nose them nose to nose. We'll change the motors in the truck. And I looked straight in their eye and I said, and Kurt's still going to pound your ass. I said, have you ever watched a video? I said, the little shit can drive. And now his son can drive. That's what's even better yet. Yeah.
Amazing. That's awesome. That's a fair approach. You think that shit's different? Bring your truck here. We'll switch motors and you can go cry about it next weekend.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Shane Kellogg was one of my first super stock customers. And we're at a pull, and I always said, anything I own's for sale. And he pointed to that motor and told Patty, he said, I want that. Patty said, what do you want? He said, I want that motor. We come home, took it out, put it in Shane's first bowling truck. And
you're like, thanks, I get to build a new one now.
Yeah, because Adam will tell you this. I guarantee you, Adam, your motor does not have the top-notch parts that your customers got. Am I right or am I wrong?
No, I mean, ours, it's really funny. A couple of my engines, I've slowly circled. Like, people will come over and want cylinder heads. They don't want to buy new ones or something. I might take some used ones off or whatever. But, I try to take as much care of them as I can. I think the newest motor I got is probably from, 2018.
See?
So,
same thing as us.
I don't seem like I constantly, people always said, oh, Ken Vinny, he builds an engine a year or whatever, and he sells it and builds a brake. Maybe people do that. I don't, whatever. Some people do it. Some people don't.
I mean, I always talk about, we always talk about my truck, hey, our junk always comes last. But one of the big things here that I've emphasized to all my guys here at the shop is our stuff has to be right when it's loaded in the trailer. I mean, you can't drive 500 miles to look like a monkey humping a football. I mean, we don't get no practice, just like your video. This is no practice podcast. We get no practice. If we're not right, we suck.
That is right.
Yeah.
All right, Van, I'm going to ask the question that Chase always steals from me. We need to know, if you're in charge of pulling, what are you going to do to make it better? What is one thing or one idea or one direction you want to go, whether it's whatever comes off your mind? What is the one thing that you believe that will make tractor pulling, truck pulling
The
better?
only thing that will ever make our sport grow is what Chase is doing right now. We have got to figure out, number one, how to get sponsorship and get butts in those seats.
Right.
So I don't know what else I can say. I mean, honest to God, I don't.
Maybe.
Absolutely. My question I like asking everybody, Ben, is if it's Saturday night at Bowling Green, your last hook in the class, obviously to take the win is always sweet, but to take it from that certain someone, it makes it that much sweeter. Who is your certain someone that it makes it that much better when you get to take the win from them?
The guy on the drawbar pad at Fort Recovery.
Yeah, probably.
You know, our class is really, I mean, we are the best of friends, pretty much everybody in the class now. We got rid of a couple of bad apples, which is just fantastic. But man, I tell people all the time, we're the best of friends until you hear clink. When that chain hits that clevis, that's the only time we're competitors. And one of the best pullers I ever knew in my life was Steve Boyd. That guy would give you the shirt off of his back to get you down the track that night. And that's the way we feel here. I mean, and there's not a better compliment in the world than for us to get beat by our own equipment. That is awesome. Yeah. I mean,
for sure. So
yeah.
Does that mean it's the Cummins killer? Is that your choice? Because he's running the
me and Craig Dickey are the best of friends. We talk shit all the time. Yeah, he's going to put a muffler on his truck and go run at Louisville this year. And I told him, I said, you are going to get your ass kicked. But there's a group of guys there since you brought them up. I mean, they have had their face kicked in so many nights, but they stuck with that Cummins. And Jeremy Wagler is just phenomenal.
With the Duramax.
With the Duramax. I mean,
you can't even say Duramax. You just say Cummins.
Mean, there's no foundation in that thing. It's just like you guys' blower motors. It's got 5 main bearings and 8 rod bearings. It don't make no sense. There ain't no foundation there. But for them to do what they did is awesome. And Craig, we go back and forth all the time. I mean, they're great, hardworking American people, man. Right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had Craig on our show, and if there's one episode you should listen to, you listen to that one. I mean, we don't need to tell you. We don't need to tell you what a character Craig is, the stories he has to tell. I mean, that was my first time basically interacting with him, and after having him on this show, I'm like, shit, I cannot wait to link up with this guy at a pull and kill a couple beers with him and just talk.
They killed my cooler beer. It was great.
I'm telling you, you do not try to outdrink Craig or Chris Cusick or Shane Kellogg. Okay. Those baby there are seasoned veterans.
Yeah, we got to get a. Okay, so speaking of this stuff, this is another question I'd like to ask. I know we're getting a little long winded here. We're gonna need to be wrapping it up, but you know, years of traveling up and down the road, obviously with you and Shane and a lot, and we know what kind of character Shane is. I don't think a lot of people do. He's kind of the prankster or anything, but you got a story from traveling from events, all the years you've been doing that sticks out as like memorable. Of you know, Adam Bauer ripping his awning off on a toll booth, and you know, just numerous things that happen up down the road. Do you have anything that kind of sticks out over the years?
I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw Eric Stacy underneath the bus.
Okay.
When fuel was $4 plus a gallon a few years ago, Kurt and Eric teamed up. And that's back when we just had the Volvo. It didn't have a bathroom in it. And where was we at? St. Louis, Missouri, baby, or somewhere out in that area. We were going out west somewhere, Adam. And he tells me, hey, I got to pee. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I can get off. And I mean, like the next exit, no, you can't get back on. You can't get back on. And so finally, buddy, I mean, Eric is busted at the seams, and he says, pull this SOB over, I'm peeing. And I'll never, to this day, and he still accuses me of hurting his kidneys. But I'll never forget that as long as I live. I mean, you couldn't see a guy run out of the semi fast enough.
That's funny. Larry Phillips told me one time that there was Jim Chandler would go with them, and Jim smoked cigarettes, and Larry, you know, you couldn't stop him from smoking cigarettes, but he said, one thing I can do is I cannot quit driving for him long enough he can't smoke one. And he said, I would hold piss in. I would drive hours on hours holding my urine in just so he couldn't smoke a cigarette. I thought that was really funny.
That's pretty brutal, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
I mean, what you're talking about there, Adam, I mean, you and your dad and your family and Tyler and Chase, I mean, God, I mean, we're so blessed. I mean, the amount of miles we drive a year, and we're tired so much of the time because we've been working on our junk. You can't appreciate that how things really happen. Look at that young pup right there.
Who is that? Explain that to us.
That's in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. That's Eric Stacy, and then in the background is Kent Crowder.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And Kent Payne.
Yeah. There you got Rooster back there in the background right there. Yes.
Picture. Nobody even realized it when they took it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kurt and Eric are the same age. And Eric's another guy. We was talking about whacking a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Eric's another guy that can swing a bat. Him and Kurt, we blew a pull off one time, DHRA, and took a day off in Terre Haute and went to batting cage. And I was amazed at them two young men. They could whack a baseball.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Cool,
Awesome.
Van.
Well,
This is my number one all-time favorite guest we've ever had in the No Practice podcast. We're going over. When we started this podcast, we were going to make this less than an hour, and we never make it under 2 hours. But I don't want to cut you off, but we do need to end this at some point. So, any final words or anything you want to say to the pulling world? And we had this photo of a Volkswagen in Germany. Do you mind to explain what this is? Because I thought this was one of the coolest things we saw.
I got over to Germany, and they had a German-American race club over there. And yeah, and so this was on base. And what they did, guys, is they buried school buses in the corners, and then they made the dirt. So this thing was a bowl with high banks like Daytona. And this particular photo was like a July 4th, and we raced 3 different classes, as you see the 3 different vehicles there. And that buddy of mine, Rick Wilson, drove. Rick got killed in a motorcycle accident years ago. He was an Army veteran with me, and sad thing to happen, but, good Lord decided he needed to go home. But that day there, I mean, we won all 3 classes, and it was just amazing. But, I mean, the people we raced with over there, you probably never even heard of a company called J.C. Whitney. Was Chicago it was long before Jags or Summit. That's how we got all these parts for these Volkswagens was that and Claude's buggies out of California. But hell, I didn't know nothing about a Volkswagen, but we figured it out. And you can make it run.
I love it. I love it.
You can cut the cylinder heads on there and jack up the compression on them. They run pretty damn good.
Yeah, yeah.
Numerous of
those. Just like we do and you guys do.
I think that's
absolutely. Then one thing
Daddy thinks that's Kurt on my lap.
No, I'm sure it is.
Because he was Kurt was born in Germany.
Pull the picture back up backstage. That's Kurt?
No, that's not Kurt. That's
David.
David. Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Well, as you see, I lied to you. We raced 4 classes that day.
That's the first lie you've told this entire show. Though,
yeah,
right?
there's 4 trophies. That means 4 classes, right?
Yep, 4 classes.
The mechanics race.
Yeah, and the other one was the mechanics race, and I drove. But I'm not lying, guys. I was no driver. I just didn't have the kahunas that it takes. But Rick, he was fearless.
I love it. I love it. Then one thing we like to do with everybody is a little segment that we call 2 truths and 1 lie. So you're going to tell us 3 statements, 2 of them being truths, 1 of them being a lie, and it will be up to us 3 to figure out which one is the lie. Take it away.
Okay. All right. I shook Robert F. Kennedy's hand in 1968 when he was campaign caravanning on a route from Indianapolis. He stopped by our grade school. That's number 1. I was in Our Guys and Gals, the swing choir, when I was in high school. And the last one is I do not have a CDL.
I think the CDL is the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's 1
cool,
lie. I'm
going to
say the lie is you have it. I'm going to say the lie is you have a CDL.
I think the CDL is a lie. My bad.
The CDL is a lie.
Yeah, I think he does.
What do you got, Adam?
I'm going to say the CDL is a lie. Absolutely.
Well, believe it or not, guys, I didn't shake Robert F. Kennedy's hand.
Damn.
I didn't.
All right, well.
But
dang, we were hoping you did.
Yep. So all of our toters are registered in Indiana as a registered RV. So Kurt has a CDL, but I don't. And you ought to see the look on officers' face when they pull you over when you blow by scales. It's a deer in a headlight.
I heard that.
That's why you need a shack on the back.
Yeah.
My father also does not have a CDL, and he got pulled over one time, and that cop was adamant that he had to have one, and he could not leave the side of the road. And my dad said, well, you'd better radio to whoever you need to, and you let them know that this is a registered RV. Everything in here is paid with money after taxes. We don't have no corporate sponsorship, nothing. And as soon as you walk away, I'm releasing the brakes, and we're going to get this show on the road. And the guy said, sir, you'd better not do that. And he said, well, with all due respect, I'm telling you what I'm going to do, and you can call whoever you want. And if you want, I'll see you in court, and you will find out that you are, in fact, wrong.
It's legalized stealing. And in the state of Indiana, guys, brutal. I have a personal friend that is the brother-in-law of the governor, or he's married to, the governor of Indiana is his brother-in-law. And we tried to get the same laws in Indiana that Chuck Knapp got passed out there because he got messed with all the time. And we've tried that for years, even had Steve Boyd on board. Never happened. So
state of Indiana's brutal. They're the ones who locked up Willem Dingerink.
They did Dan Scheid too.
Yeah, they locked up Dan Scheid, and Dan just waited them out.
Graves, all in the state of Indiana.
Yeah. When we're leaving Louisville, typically. Yeah.
What a damn
great
shame.
if y'all want to move down here.
Yeah. But you go to Chase's state, and you don't even have to have a trailer plate.
You don't have to have a driver's license.
No, that's Iowa, I think. That's Iowa.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story. All right, man. Well, we don't want to keep you too long. Thank you so much for giving us as much time as you did. Thank you for your energy that you bring and everything you bring to the sport, competition, and performance-wise. It has been our pleasure. Any last parting words you want to give us?
I'll tell you what, guys. It's an honor, and I appreciate what you're doing because you know as well as I know, today is a digital world. You're talking to a guy here, guys, that couldn't even use a calculator in high school. So that shows you how computer illiterate I am. Here, Adam, you get a kick out of this. I wrote this down just for you, brother. This is Haisley Cam right here. Yellow notebook paper.
Hey,
and thank God I've got young guys that work back in the machine shop. I hand them Haisley Cam with my sketches on it, and they make me parts.
So this right here, brother. All starts right here.
Yes. And I tell Patty all the time, when the power goes off, I can still run a business. When the power goes off, you're screwed.
That's right.
Oh, but thank God for the younger generation. I mean, but I wrote that down. I just thought you'd get a kick out of that. Haisley, right there.
Hey,
I like that. The notepad is the first handoff of delegation to make things happen.
It
like
is.
You said earlier, you can't do it all. It takes a team. It takes good people. You don't need to know how to make that work. You know in your mind what you need to put on paper, and they'll make it happen from there. So.
They sure will. Yeah, they can take it from Haisley Cam to Fusion 360 or SolidWorks, and next thing I know, we got a moving part. So that's what's amazing. And,
I love it.
Chase has been up here and seen our capability. It's just, I mean, I'll never be a millionaire because I just keep reinvesting. So hopefully Kurt and his kids will enjoy it when I'm gone.
Absolutely. It's American dream right there. Van, thank you so much.
I think it's very important too. We've mentioned her name a few times, but there is someone behind the scenes along with Van, Miss Patty, who makes it all go round. Shout out to Patty. Van, you did not set this podcast up, this stream and all this. So we need to make sure we give credit where credit is due. Thank you to Patty. Thank you to Van, All-American family, All-American polling team. Tune in next month on Full Pull Live and see the behind-the-scenes shop tour. And we love you and thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you, guys. And Chase, thank you very much for coming to my shop. It was an honor to host you.
Yep. We're going to have a lot of fun showing the rest of the world this stuff.
All righty. You take care.
Have a good
Thanks,
night.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
See you down the road.
And now that was great, dude.
America.
Wow.
That's America. That's America.
Guy's amazing.
America.
Energy. He's got big D energy is what he's got. He's got it.
That was that was one of my favorite segments we've ever done. So
God, that guy's just got energy, man.
I told you all, so I spent the day with him, well, for those of y'all who don't know, we need to spend more time on this than we do, but in terms of planning our guests. And I told him, dude, whenever I pull out of their shop, I said, Van Haisley, we got to get him on this show. He's an American badass.
That guy, look at Patty. She's pulling up the photos and stuff. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
If we actually did our due diligence and tried to produce this thing like it needs to be done, like most professional podcasts are, I think we could really. But we're all really busy people, and we're really trying.
What's wrong with what we're doing now? Hell, I think we have 6,000 viewers. I think it's all right tonight.
Yeah. So no, that's what I'm saying. And we need that same energy from our fans. Please give us a call on our hotline, 302-272 5360. That's 302-272-5360. Call us. I mean, if you hear a story that you heard from Van, or, like I said, anything, you guys want to hear from some certain guest, anything that's on your mind, call us. We'll try to get to these voicemails and comments, and the more we get, the more we'll cover on the air. So
if you're hanging out with your friends on a Friday, Saturday night, getting drunk, talking about the No Practice podcast, just drunk dial us. We'll get you on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get you on that random FaceTime that keeps popping up every couple days, it seems like.
Yeah. But I don't think we're going to take any calls tonight, but that number works all week long, just to clarify. And you can leave us a voicemail anytime, any day. And there's a good chance, like we played the one today, we might play your voicemail next show. So, hey, yeah, we're coming up on 2.5 hours, guys. Am I going to see either one of you this coming weekend at the banquet in Louisville or no?
I don't know, man. I got a display to do in Charlestown, Indiana on Saturday from 10 to 4. Anybody when it comes out to Baumgars in Charleston, Indiana, come see me, get some deals on some stuff at Baumgars. It's a grand opening. I did one in Radcliffe, Kentucky. Chase lives right down the road from me.
My house. I never heard from you.
Yeah. I mean, he never showed up to see me either. Brandon and Tori Phillips did, though, and Grayson.
Very nice.
But
Tracy Lawrence said it best. You found out who your friends are.
That's right.
Chase, what are you doing this weekend? You going back to Vegas for some cocktail wieners, or what are you doing?
No, I'm by the way, that Anthony Freitas guy was awesome. The cocktail, or what is it called? The Nude Tribes? I think that could be a segment.
Nudist Colonies. It's where Chase is going this weekend.
We're gonna have to touch base with him again for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, I don't. No plans this weekend. Just hanging. I might come up and see you. I don't live too far away from where you're.
All right. Well, I think your pal, Mr. CJ Grazik, is going to come hang out with us some. So maybe you'll tag a ride with him, and
definitely.
We surely won't have any fun or drink any beer at all. So
you will be 4th Street Live, Louisville, the world famous Tyler Slaw. You want to meet him? Come find
PBR. He'll be on a bull.
Yeah, PBR on a bull.
I don't know. I rode the bull before, and I feel like I fractured my wrist. So I think I'm just
you have some injuries from drinking. You might want to stay off that thing.
Yeah, my shoulder is still messed up from that electric scooter from that time. So maybe I'll just lay low.
Just go down to Howl at the Moon and sing with him. How about that?
I've been guilty of that before. Gentlemen, what do you think? Should we wrap it?
Wrap it. Wrap it. So much for your all's under hour idea when we start this podcast. We're at like 2.5 hours.
We're such liars. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
We love you. See you next time.
Peace.
Welcome to Full Pull Picks. Are you ready to take your passion for tractor pulling to the next level? Let's dive into our new exciting game options. First up, we have Classic Picks. To get started, choose a Classic Picks contest. Now, it's time to pick your champions. Pick 2 vehicles that you believe will end in the top 3. Join the contest, and if both of your selections finish in the top 3 for distance points, fantastic prizes will be awarded. Now, our second game, Head-to-Head. In this thrilling challenge, select one competitor from each head-to-head group. Your goal? Predict which of the picks will pull the furthest distance within their respective group. If both of your head-to-head selections rack up the longest distances, you guessed it, prizes will be awarded. So, are you ready to play? Join us at Full Pull Picks and turn your predictions into prizes. The thrill of competition awaits. Let's see who can pull the furthest.
That's a wrap.
Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the No Practice Podcast.
Have a good one. Bye.
Stay tuned for the next episode, where we guarantee there still won't be any practice.